Chapter 631. Wind Cloud Martial Saint, time and space are not constant. Not bad. I've already gained more control. Li Lingtian reached out and looked at the exquisite flying knife in his hand. A faint smile appeared on his face. He did not take the death of a third firmament martial saint to heart at all. At that moment, many of the top powerhouses on the city wall finally got a clear look and understood how the third firmament martial saint had fallen. He was killed by Li Lingtian's concealed weapon. A martial saint powerhouse was still a super existence. It was indeed a little aggrieved that he was actually killed by a martial emperor powerhouse's hidden weapon. The death of the two martial saints in the air immediately made the battle even more intense. One of them was a third heaven martial saint from the Six Nations army, while the other was a first heaven martial saint from the Qing Xian kingdom. Martial saints basically died of old age. Those who weren't killed could escape even if they couldn't win. Even if a level 3 expert fought against a level 1 expert, as long as they weren't too unlucky, they could still escape. Now, two martial saints had fallen, and there was also a third sky martial saint. What kind of concept was this? Qing Lanyun and Cheng Tianfeng were injured. Martial Saint Ming Luo, Heavenly Monster King, and Martial Saint Yun Hao quickly chased after them. It turned out that there was one more third heaven martial saint in the Six Nations army and 6 less ordinary martial saints. However, both sides had one less martial saint now, and the Six Nations army had lost a third heaven martial saint. With such a ratio, the Six Nations army had suffered heavy losses. Kill them! Kill them! The disparity in strength was something that even ordinary martial artists could see. The current strength of the Qing Mystic Kingdom was definitely stronger than the armies of the 6 dynasties. The morale of the Qing Mystic Kingdom's army had soared, and the Divine Wind and Divine Dragon legions were able to move freely in the army. The flaming gold demonic dragon was like a demonic creature that could devour everything. It destroyed countless armies, and thousands of them vanished into thin air. Rumble! Rumble! The battle did not stop at all. Instead, it became more and more intense. Li Lingtian and the others stood on top of the city wall and watched the battle unfold with a calm expression. Such a battle could not be ended in a short period of time, even if the Divine Wind and the Divine Dragon Legion were inside. After all, the enemy army was too large. The only way now was to destroy the martial saint powerhouse in the air. However, he usually didn't want to fight now. He would let his subordinates fight. As an expert, an ultimate expert, an expert who controlled the world, he wouldn't do everything himself. Young master, do you think we can kill all the martial saints in the sky? Qing Ling looked at the battle in the sky. Right now, Qing Xian had the upper hand. However, the battle between martial saints could not be decided in a short period of time. Even if Qing Xian had the upper hand, it was impossible to end the battle. It's very difficult. After all, even if a martial saint expert can't defeat him, he can still escape. Unless it's 2 against 1. Besides, even if I go up, I can only kill a few of them, so it will depend on their luck. I don't want to do it myself, because things in this world change rapidly. Li Lingtian turned to look at Qing Ling beside him and gently said that he must protect his wife. He wouldn't be as impulsive as before and rush forward to fight. Moreover, many experts were hidden. If he exposed his strength first, others would see through him. Therefore, he wanted to become a trump card at all times. If this continues, the battle will definitely be a tragic victory. Perhaps there will be some unforeseen circumstances. Tang Qingyue looked at Li Lingtian as she spoke seriously. She understood that this war was the most important one for Qing Xian, and it was also Li Lingtian's first real battle. It was very important for the future. If anything were to happen in this war, it would have a negative impact on future wars. Great battles have always been like this. It's very difficult to defeat many with fewer people. This time I want to win, but I want them to gain some experience. There will be many battles in the future. Victory and defeat are normal. As long as the final victory is in my hands, it will be fine. Li Lingtian gently stroked Tang Qingyue's hair with a gentle smile on his face. To him, Tang Qingyue had always been a goddess. Now that she was his wife, she naturally doted on him. Then let them be. Maybe Ming Luo and the others will change something. Huangfu Yuyan felt extremely relaxed when she heard Li Lingtian's words. If Li Lingtian was happy, they would be happy. If Li Lingtian was unhappy, they would not be able to relax. Following that, Li Lingtian and the others watched the battle without paying much attention to it. The armies of the 6 states collapsed, and martial saints fell one after another. The Qing Mystic Kingdom's army was imposing. The Divine Wind Legion and the Divine Dragon Legion were engaged in a great battle. The flaming gold demonic dragon was like a devouring machine, strangling the 6 kingdoms' army. Rumble! Boom! Boom! In the air, martial saint powerhouses clashed. There was no technique at all because it was a few against one. It was completely dependent on true strength. The 3/3 Sky Martial Saints were restrained by Martial Saint Ming Luo and the other 2. As for the other Martial Saints, Qing Xian had a few more than the army of the 6 dynasties. Basically, 3 or 4 of them would join forces to kill one, and then join forces to kill the other. This kind of fighting style was a fatal existence for the 6 nations' army. If it was a one-on-one fight, the Martial Saints would not die at all. However, if 4 or 5 of them worked together to kill one, the number of Martial Saints in the 6 nations' army would decrease, and the rate of their deaths would increase. As time passed, the battle on the ground became more and more intense. The armies of both sides were already in a frenzy. The true essence of countless experts and armies had been exhausted. They were completely relying on their physical strength to fight. Even martial emperors could only fight with martial grandmasters and martial kings without true essence. Li, Ling, heavens! At this moment, an ethereal voice rang out from the void. The entire battlefield turned ice cold. It was as if all the troops and experts had entered an icy abyss, and they could not help but shiver. Li Lingtian's expression changed drastically as he spat out a mouthful of blood. His body was forced back a few steps before he stopped. The terrifying sound wave attack, a simple sentence, carried supreme dignity and attack. There was nowhere to dodge or block. Even a peerless powerhouse like Li Lingtian was injured by the sound. Young master. Young master. Husband A. Seeing Li Lingtian's sudden change, the people on the city wall were appalled. Tang Qingyue and the others quickly supported Li Lingtian with concern on their faces. The powerhouses were terrified. Even Li Lingtian was injured by a single sound. How powerful was that? Moreover, Qing Xian's victory was certain at this moment. It was unacceptable for such a thing to happen. It's okay. You guys be careful. Li Lingtian circulated his true essence, but he was only shaken mentally. When he had discovered the danger earlier, he had also circulated his cultivation technique and blocked most of the sound wave attack. Otherwise, even a martial emperor powerhouse like him would have died in front of this sound wave. After saying that, he looked into the depths of the void and saw a grid appear in the sky. It was a purple grid, and the grid expanded slightly. The void within a radius of 100 miles was filled with an endless grid. In the grid, a faint shadow gradually formed. Soon, the shadow turned into a real body, an old man in his 50s. The old man's body emitted a terrifying aura, and the entire space trembled in front of his pressure. Furthermore, there were purple halos flashing around the old man, making him seem mysterious and powerful. Li Lingtian and the other powerhouses exclaimed in surprise when they saw the old man. 5th Sky of the Martial Saint Realm. Wind Cloud Martial Saint. Wind Cloud Martial Saint. For a moment, all the experts were shocked. Li Lingtian's expression changed drastically when he saw the old man's cultivation base. The old man's cultivation base had actually reached the 5th heaven of the Martial Saint Realm. The 5th heaven of the Martial Saint Realm was completely different from the 4th and 3rd heaven of the Martial Saint Realm. A 4th heaven Martial Saint in front of a 5th heaven Martial Saint was like a martial king meeting a martial grandmaster or even a martial emperor. The two were on completely different levels. All the martial saints and super experts were shocked when they saw this old man because this martial saint expert was one of the top 10 martial saints in the Moonsong Kingdom. His cultivation was extremely terrifying. The Moonsong Kingdom controlled 36 countries, but Qing Xian was only one of them. They did not expect Martial Saint Feng Yun to appear here. They looked at him in confusion. Although Li Lingtian did not know much about other places, he had gained some understanding of Qing Xian, some other countries, and some other kingdoms after coming to Shenzhou. There were 3 empires, 36 kingdoms, 3,000 countries, and 100,000 commanderies in Xianzhou. Qingxian was only a kingdom under the Moonsong Kingdom, and it was already so powerful. Moreover, there were kingdoms and empires. Their power was unimaginable. Seeing that the army and countless experts were trembling under his name, the Wind Cloud Martial Saint was satisfied. His cold gaze turned to Li Lingtian as the satisfaction on his face turned into anger. The Wind Cloud Martial Saint was skilled in Wind Cloud mutated attribute attacks. What was even more terrifying was that the Wind Cloud Martial Saint also controlled terrifying sound wave attacks. With these two earth-shattering destructive trump cards, he had become one of the top 10 martial saints in the Moonsong Kingdom. However, a martial emperor did not die under his sonic attack. Instead, he was only slightly injured. To the 10 great martial saints, this was definitely an insult. In the sky, all the martial saints stopped, and the martial saints of the 6 armies looked excited. This was because the Wind Cloud Martial Saint's attack on Li Lingtian was beneficial to them. However, the martial saint experts of the Qingxian country had their expressions changed. A 5th Sky Martial Saint had come and swept away all the experts. To them, it was a devastating blow. Li Lingtian, you violated the iron law of the divine martial continent. You deserve to be punished. The Wind Cloud Martial Saint hovered high in the air as he glared coldly at Li Lingtian. His voice traveled at a moderate pace and spread throughout the entire battlefield. For a moment, the armies on both sides were both happy and worried. His imposing aura was like a judge scrutinizing Li Lingtian. Continuous outbreak. Where are the monthly votes, recommendation votes, and book reviews? Chapter 632. Heaven-Defying Duel. 1. Iron Law. Haha, the Iron Law is nothing in front of me. Li Lingtian looked at the Wind Cloud Martial Saint in the air indifferently with a cold expression on his face. In the end, he burst out laughing maniacally. He looked extremely arrogant. In this world the strong were respected. There was no Iron Law. Iron Law only applied to low-level martial artists. To the strong, it was completely ignored. If Qingxian didn't have so many martial saints, if he wasn't here, Qingxian would have been wiped out by the combined forces of the 6 states, and billions of people would have died. Now that Martial Saint Feng Yun was using the Iron Law to suppress him, he was furious. Moreover, it was a sound wave attack. If his cultivation was slightly weaker, he would have died. How could there be an Iron Law? Since the Iron Law was useless against the other party, then he would directly fall out with them. Hush! Upon hearing Li Lingtian's words and seeing his arrogant and overbearing manner, all the powerhouses were shocked. A 4th Heaven Martial Emperor dared to oppose a 5th Heaven Martial Saint powerhouse. Moonsong Kingdom's 10 great martial saints were no ordinary trash. Even if all the martial saints present joined forces, he could still wipe them all out. Now, Li Lingtian was resisting the Wind Cloud Martial Saint. Was he crazy? Good. As Li Lingtian spoke, the expression on the Wind Cloud Martial Saint's face slowly changed. His aura surged and the entire space shook. How could he survive in Moonsong Kingdom after being humiliated by a trash martial emperor in front of the entire world's army and experts? The destructive aura stirred the world crazily. Everything in the world trembled in front of this destructive aura. Heaven and earth trembled in front of this aura. The terrifying aura made all the experts unable to resist at all. They looked at the Wind Cloud Martial Saint in horror. This was the power of the 10 great martial saints. All the martial saints and super experts had the same thought. They were shocked and afraid. Boom! Boom! Hua hua! The air trembled and distorted. The world was filled with the aura of destruction and death. The expression on Feng Yun Fengshang's face became increasingly unsightly. Within 10,000 miles, the weather changed. All the troops prostrated themselves on the ground and did not dare to raise their heads. It was as if they had encountered a ruler. Even the martial emperor powerhouses were trembling. What's good about it? It's not good at all. Iron Law? What a ridiculous Iron Law. When the 6 dynasties attacked Qingxian, you didn't mention the Iron Law. Now, you're talking about the Iron Law. Your words are like fart. Do you think I'm easy to bully? In a flash, Li Lingtian shot into the sky and hovered in the air 100 miles away from the Wind Cloud Martial Saint. He glared coldly at the wind cloud martial saint. The destructive force and wind wreaked havoc in the space. In the storm, his clothes kept rustling, and his entire person seemed to have entered a space-time tunnel. In everyone's eyes, Li Lingtian was like a small boat in the middle of a stormy sea that could vanish into thin air at any moment. "You're courting death." Fengyun martial saint was even more shocked. A low-level martial emperor was not afraid of his aura, and was even standing in his presence. This was a provocation. He was a martial monarch realm expert now, but he was already so abnormally powerful. If he did not get rid of him now, he would definitely be a huge problem in the future. A shocking might blasted toward Li Lingtian. The shocking might was as terrifying as the might of the heavens. Coupled with the destructive aura, even a ninth firmament martial emperor would perish from this attack. Heavenly Demon Region. Li Lingtian's eyes were filled with shock and fear. This was the first time he was so terrified. Even when he met the 7 demon venerables last time, he wasn't this terrified. His current cultivation and strength were many times stronger than before. However, meeting this Fengyun martial saint had brought him such fear. This was not a good thing. If he were to cower in front of the Fengyun martial saint this time, he would definitely be traumatized in the future. The fighting spirit in his entire body erupted. He circulated the heaven and earth reincarnation technique and the true dragon body barrier. The limitless feather coat on his body was also activated. The heavenly demon domain was unleashed. In terms of pressure and aura, he was never afraid of any expert. When the heavenly demon region was unleashed, he was the ruler within a 10-meter radius. Boom! A destructive tremor shook the space. An invisible aura and might collided, and the world was in chaos. The pressure was the pressure of a 5th heaven martial saint. In the divine martial continent, even a 4th heaven martial saint would be suppressed, let alone a martial supreme. In the hearts of all the powerhouses, Li Lingtian was definitely dead. The armies of the 6 kingdoms were overjoyed, while the Qingxian army was terrified and regretful. In front of a 5th heaven martial saint powerhouse, even a 3rd heaven martial saint would be restricted in his movements. It was impossible for him to help Li Lingtian. Only martial saint Ming Luo and the other 2 knew how terrifying Li Lingtian was. Even if Li Lingtian could not defeat martial saint Fengyun, he would not have fallen. After the earth-shattering tremor, all the experts were stunned, completely blinded by the situation in the sky. Li Lingtian's body was thrown back 10 miles like a kite with a broken string. He spat out a mouthful of blood, but he was not crushed to death as expected. Martial Saint Fengyun's face was pale as well. A trace of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth as he retreated 100 meters. The 2 of them clashed with each other in terms of pressure and aura, and it was clear who was stronger. The Wind Cloud Martial Saint, one of the 10 martial saints of Moonsong Kingdom, was definitely not someone a martial emperor could compare to. However, all the powerhouses were shocked. A martial emperor powerhouse actually dared to use his pressure and aura to collide with the Wind Cloud Martial Saint. Moreover, he did not die and was only injured. Domineering, arrogant, powerful, and heaven-defying. These words were used on Li Lingtian. Only these words could describe the terror of this young powerhouse. With his cultivation at the 4th heaven of the martial emperor realm, he controlled the battle of the world's armies. He killed a 3rd heaven martial saint with his 4th heaven martial emperor cultivation base, and now he was fighting against the 10 martial saints of Moonsong Kingdom. Moreover, a martial saint expert could not destroy him even with his terrifying advantage. No one dared to imagine what kind of concept this was. Li Lingtian's mind was shaken. He steadied himself after he was thrown 10 miles away, and used the force of the throw to offset the terrifying pressure of the Wind Cloud Martial Saint. Otherwise, he would not have been thrown so far away. Only Martial Saint Fengyun understood this. In the air, the force raged, and the wind tore through space. The aura between heaven and earth was chaotic. Yes, Moonsong Kingdom's 10 great martial saints. Not bad. You are indeed very powerful. Li Lingtian steadied himself and reached out to wipe away the blood at the corner of his mouth. However, his snow-white shirt was dripping with blood and he looked extremely miserable. However, his eyes flashed with a bright light, and his fighting spirit was awe-inspiring. The aura around his entire body continued to rise. He looked at the Fengyun martial saint and said with a smile. His voice was calm and without any color, But this sentence became a mockery in the hearts of all the experts. It meant that the 10 martial saints of Moonsong Kingdom were only so. Otherwise, they wouldn't even be able to kill a martial emperor with their pressure and aura. At the same time, this sentence was an insult to martial saint Feng Yun. His face turned red and he looked terrible. The 10 great martial saints had sneaked an attack on a martial emperor and used their pressure and aura to attack this martial emperor. They had failed twice. How could they still have the face to attack again? If word got out in the future, they would lose face. Alright, you're the strongest martial emperor I've ever met. The number 1 below the martial saint is none other than you. As long as you become my disciple, everything will disappear. In a few hundred years, you will become the strongest in the Mystic Moon Empire and look down on the world. Otherwise, you'll immediately vanish into thin air. The expression on Martial Saint Feng Yun's face slowly changed as his heart raced. The young man in front of him had shocking strength. He was confident that he could kill him, but it would take a lot of effort for him to do so. Moreover, he might even be seriously injured. When that happened, his cultivation would fall. It would not be good to hear that he injured a martial emperor powerhouse. Moreover, this young man was only in his 20s, but he had already become a martial emperor powerhouse. His strength was comparable to a martial saint. If he were to take this young man in as his disciple, he would be able to bring glory to himself when this young man became a super powerhouse. If this young man did not agree, he would have to destroy him. Otherwise, it would definitely be a future trouble. Whoosh! All the experts were stunned. What was going on? They had just engaged in a life-and-death battle, yet they were about to take Li Lingtian under their wing. It was obvious that the Wind Cloud Martial Saint cherished talents and was willing to sacrifice his pride to win Li Lingtian over. Was the world in chaos or crazy? All the super experts wanted to die. Comparing people was infuriating. Do you think it's possible? Li Lingtian's words were beyond everyone's imagination. Everyone was certain that Li Lingtian would agree to it. With a super martial saint backing him up, he could even avoid death. Where else could they find such a good deal? In Moonsong Kingdom, there were plenty of powerhouses who wanted to curry favor with the 10 great martial saints, but none of them had the chance to do so. However, Li Lingtian did not reject the offer. Moreover, Li Lingtian's domineering and arrogant attitude was evident in just one sentence. It was a kind of pride that would never admit defeat and never lower its head. It would not be inferior to anyone. Impossible. Then let it vanish like smoke. Try my great wind cloud palm. Wind and clouds move. Heaven and earth tremble. Great wind and cloud palm will destroy the gods. Feng Yun martial saint's expression became strange. He understood the arrogance of this young man. It was impossible for him to submit to anyone. Since he couldn't submit, then he had to die. However, the anger on Martial Saint Feng Yun's face disappeared. He became very calm, and his eyes showed admiration. This was the heart of a true expert. He would not bow down to others and had his own pride. No matter how powerful a martial emperor powerhouse was, he was still a martial emperor. He was limited to the realm of a martial emperor and a martial saint, and he was restricted by heaven and earth. He could easily eliminate Li Lingtian even if he had to expend some effort. However, he had revealed his moves. This was not an insult, but a kind of honesty that only true opponents would have. After saying that, he slowly withdrew his aura, and the world temporarily quieted down. Chapter 633, Heavenly Sword Unity. Great wind cloud palm. The sky fell silent, and even the air seemed to have frozen. The army of tens of millions and countless supreme experts did not dare to breathe loudly at this moment. They looked at the sky with wide eyes. The wind cloud martial saint was floating in the air. His aura was getting weaker and weaker. Gradually, there was no more aura left. Otherwise, with the presence of the wind cloud martial saint, it was impossible for him to believe that there was such a person in the sky. Similarly, Li Lingtian had a faint smile on his face. His expression was calm and he looked extremely carefree. The calm before the storm. The atmosphere was oppressive. Space. Silence. The expert looked up at the two figures in the air. At that moment, Li Lingtian was no longer a martial emperor powerhouse or a martial emperor that anyone could bully. Instead, he was an existence comparable to a martial saint. Similarly, he was a super powerhouse who had killed a third heaven martial saint. No one dared to look down on this young martial emperor anymore. He had just fought 2 rounds with the Wind Cloud martial saint of the 10 great martial saints. Although he was at a disadvantage, it was enough for him to be proud of. Boom! Roar! At this moment, the tranquility of the space was suddenly broken, and a series of explosions appeared in the air. The space also trembled. The expressions of countless experts changed drastically. Their eyes were filled with horror as if they had seen a ghost. The Wind Cloud martial saint stretched out his hand, and the sky changed color. The wind and clouds surged. The entire world seemed to be about to be destroyed. This world had become a world of wind and clouds. The clouds were formless, and the wind was unfixed. The wind and clouds fused, and the world changed color. The power of the wind and clouds changed endlessly, and the power of destruction destroyed the world. A simple hand gesture caused the world to change, striking the minds of all martial artists. Countless martial artists' minds followed the hand gesture and sank into this great wind cloud palm. Li Lingtian did not dare to hesitate when he saw the changes in the space. If he was careless when fighting against a 5th sky martial saint, he would instantly disappear. He was simply courting death. At this moment, he no longer cared about anything else. He circulated his true essence, used the heaven and earth reincarnation art, activated the true dragon body protection, and activated the limitless feather coat. The 5 elements Tao intent formed an independent world that revolved non-stop. Very good. Your great wind cloud palm is very powerful. I want to see if the great wind cloud palm or my heaven sword unity is more powerful. Metal Tao intent. Li Lingtian's eyes shone brightly as his aura was raised to its maximum. Instantly, a shocking sword intent burst out. He was like a sharp sword standing proudly between heaven and earth. The destructive sword intent wreaked havoc in the space. Even a martial saint expert could not comprehend sword intent. Only those super sword Xiao experts had a chance. In this world, there were only a few experts who had cultivated sword essence. After Li Lingtian accepted the heavenly sword physique and refined it, his understanding and acceptance of sword doctrine had become even stronger. Sword intent was the most powerful existence among all kinds of Tao intent. Because this was sword intent. Sword, the king of all weapons. The sword was incomparably sharp. Sword, domineering killing. The sword could destroy heaven and earth. The sword intent was even more terrifying. The sword intent that Li Lingtian controlled had already reached the transcendent state. As soon as he finished speaking, the will of the great path of metal was displayed. The world was filled with destructive will of the great path and force. Wherever the will of the great path and force passed, it was simply invincible. Metal Tao intent. It's Tao intent. Sword intent. I didn't expect to cultivate sword intent and Tao intent. Countless powerhouses looked at Li Lingtian's formless sword will and Tao will in the air with shock and envy on their faces. The way of metal focused on killing and destroying the world, while the sword intent was incomparably sharp. The fusion of the two was a strong combination. Fengyun martial saint was also extremely excited, and his eyes sparkled. It was not easy to meet a powerful opponent. This time, he had to have a good competition. When he saw Li Lingtian's sword intent and metal Tao intent, he was even more curious about Li Lingtian. How could a young man in his 20s be so heaven-defying? The great wind cloud palm had been circulated to its maximum. His eyes turned stern and cold. With a casual slap, the great wind cloud palm struck toward Li Lingtian. Between heaven and earth, there was an endless great wind cloud palm. The wind and clouds thundered as heaven's might descended. The destructive heaven's might and the wind cloud palm came crashing down on Li Lingtian from all directions. Li Lingtian felt as if the entire world had shattered. All the attacks were pressing down on him as if they were about to tear him apart. Sky sword. Heaven's sword unity. The corners of his mouth twitched as he muttered to himself. A stream of light flashed between his brows, and a crystal-clear sword appeared in his hand. The moment the sword appeared, a destructive pressure erupted between heaven and earth. It was the pressure of a saint artifact. The pressure of the supreme saint artifact, the sky sword, was completely exposed at this moment. Immediately, Li Lingtian's aura changed abruptly as his sword will transformed into sword force. 100-meter-long sword ray appeared in the air. The shocking sword momentum stunned countless martial artists. It was one thing for Li Lingtian to have cultivated sword intent, but he had also cultivated a sword force that was even more terrifying than sword intent. How could this be possible? It seemed slow, but it was actually fast. The entire process only took 2 seconds. The Tianyu sword transformed into a sword ray and Li Lingtian's figure vanished as well. He had completely merged with the sword ray and achieved man and sword as one. However, he had used the heavenly sword unity because he had the heavenly sword body. When he used the heavenly sword unity, he was the ruler of all swords. The sword aura tore through the void. The sword light ignored time and space. The power of the great wind cloud palm was unparalleled. The 2 devastating attacks were separated by 100 miles, but the speed of the 2 attacks was basically ignored. All the soldiers and experts looked at the 2 attacks in the air. The world seemed to have stopped. Countless experts felt that a century had passed in this world. They didn't dare to make a sound, afraid that they would break the trajectory of the 2 attacks in the air. After an unknown period of time, all the troops and experts woke up. It was an instant. It was 1 second. It was still a century. No one knew. However, at this moment the 2 attacks collided. There was no earth-shattering movement, no earth-shattering explosion, and no world-destroying tremor. Everyone stared blankly at the sky. In the sky, the 100-meter-long sword light slashed down fiercely with golden light. The originally invisible Great Wind Cloud Palm also appeared at this moment. The Great Wind Cloud Palm was a 100-meter-wide palm print. The palm print and the sword light collided. There was no sound, and they were not immediately destroyed. Pucci! However, at the same time, 2 sounds of blood spurting could be heard. The 2 figures were thrown out like kites with broken strings. 10 miles, 20 miles, 30 miles, 300 miles. The 2 figures were thrown 300 miles away. In the end, they floated quietly in the air without any movement. The world fell silent. The sword light disappeared and the great wind cloud palm was destroyed. Everything vanished into thin air. Li Lingtian was still Li Lingtian, and the wind cloud martial saint was still the wind cloud martial saint. It was like an illusion. All the experts and the army were stunned. They thought that everything was fake, but the 2 figures in the air told them that it was not fake. Tang Qingyue and the others were extremely worried as they watched Li Lingtian float in the air. In the past, Li Lingtian had only encountered ordinary martial saints who were below the 3rd heaven. However, this time, he had encountered a 5th heaven martial saint. He was also a super heaven-defying expert among the 10 great martial saints, a martial saint who could defy the heavens. They no longer had the slightest confidence in the battle between the 2, because the person fighting in the air was their man, their pillar of support, and also their spiritual support. However, they could only wait and did not dare to disturb Li Lingtian at all. Similarly, the countless super experts on the city wall and martial saint Ming Luo and the others in the air were also calm. There was excitement and worry in his eyes. He was excited to see Li Lingtian's true strength, which was heaven-defying, but he was worried about Li Lingtian's comfort. In such a great battle, they simply could not intervene. Phew! Shoo! While countless experts were worried and curious, the 2 people floating in the air stood up strangely. They stood up at the same time and floated in the air again. At the same time, he needed a breath of fresh air, as if he had been holding back for a long time. Their expressions were calm, and there were traces of blood at the corners of their mouths. They could not tell how much damage they had suffered, but some martial saints could tell that the 2 of them were heavily injured. It was just that they did not show it on the surface. A great battle between powerhouses that had reached such a level had completely exceeded the scope of their imagination. Again. Li Lingtian and the Wind Cloud Martial Saint spoke at the same time with excitement on their faces. This scene stunned countless people. These 2 were lunatics that made people afraid. Battle maniac. He actually had a battle intent at this moment. Fengyun Pavilion, this time, I won't hold back. You have to be careful with this move. If you die, I won't have a match. This move is called the 9 Heavenly Stars. If you can't withstand it, you can say it because it's a powerful technique that surpasses the heaven rank and even the saint rank. Li Lingtian replied calmly. Although the other party was an enemy, a true enemy was much better than a hypocritical one. Moreover, he had developed a sense of admiration for such an opponent. This was the principle of a hero cherishing a hero. The 9 heavenly stars? The legendary 9 heavenly stars? Could it be the legendary innate skill that can only be cultivated by those who have reached the 5 elements perfection? Could he be at the 5 elements perfection? Stars in the 9 skies? You must be joking. In the divine martial continent, no one has ever cultivated the 5 elements to perfection, let alone the 9 heavenly stars. Saint level? Surpass the saint tier? All the powerhouses were stunned by Li Lingtian's words as their expressions changed continuously. Immediately after, a series of exclamations erupted, and their expressions were ugly. They did not believe Li Lingtian's words at all because the 9 skies of stars was a legend from the upper realm. The divine martial continent did not even exist. Besides, the 9 heavenly stars was the innate divine art of a 5 elements perfection powerhouse. Could Li Lingtian's 5 elements perfection be the real heaven-defying one? Chapter 634. The 9 heavenly stars defeated the martial saint. For a moment, countless experts looked up at the sky. At this moment, the figure that originally did not look imposing and tall became like a mountain, giving people an insurmountable moat. The legend of the divine martial continent had actually appeared on this young man. Everyone looked at Li Lingtian curiously, wanting to see what the legendary existence looked like. The 9 heavenly stars? Are you at the peak of the 5 elements? Windcloud Martial Saint could not sit still anymore. His expression changed several times as he looked at Li Lingtian in surprise. Gradually, his eyes turned envious. After becoming a martial emperor, he had never envied anyone else. When he became a martial saint, he was an overlord of a region and was one of the 10 martial saints of Moonsong Kingdom. Even the king of the Moonsong Kingdom had to be polite and respectful when he saw him. Naturally, he would not be envious of anything else. However, he was actually envious of a martial emperor powerhouse now. This envy was something that he would never be able to achieve in his entire life. At first, Li Lingtian's terrifying heavenly sword unity was already heaven-defying enough to break his great wind cloud palm. Now that Li Lingtian had mentioned the almighty art of the 9 heavenly stars, he asked Li Lingtian curiously. Phew! Li Lingtian did not say a word. In a flash, he took a step forward. The vital essence in his body circulated, and the heaven and earth reincarnation activated the will of the 5 elements. Suddenly, a golden will of the way appeared between heaven and earth. He didn't need to say anything. What he wanted was to use facts to prove everything. He wanted to prove that he was an expert, a heaven-defying expert. The metal Tao intent was unleashed once again. Although countless powerhouses were shocked, they were no longer as shocked and envious as before after witnessing it once. However, Li Lingtian's actions made all of them understand that Li Lingtian spoke with his strength. He was looking forward to Li Lingtian's next move even more. Similarly, the Wind Cloud Martial Saint was looking forward to it as well. Although he knew that the 9 heaven stars was incomparably domineering, he still wanted to see a mighty technique like the 9 heaven stars. After the metal will of the Great Path appeared, it was followed by the wood will of the Great Path, followed by the water will of the Great Path, fire will of the Great Path, and earth will of the Great Path. The 5 elements Tao will was unleashed in an instant. Instantly, Li Lingtian was the center of the world. An independent world formed around Li Lingtian. It's not the 5 elements paragon. It's the perfected 5 elements Tao intent. All the experts were stunned when they saw the appearance of the 5 elements Tao intent. The 5 elements perfection was already heaven-defying. There had never been a powerhouse with the 5 elements perfection in the divine martial continent. He did not expect Li Lingtian to cultivate the 5 elements Tao intent. A martial emperor powerhouse in his 20s was able to control the sword intent and sword force, as well as the 5 elements Tao intent. At this moment, the expression on Martial Saint Fengyun's face changed. Even if he was a 5th sky martial saint, he was not confident at all. After all, the 5 elements perfection was too heaven-defying. Now that Li Lingtian had not only mastered the 5 elements perfection but also the 5 elements Dao intent perfection, its power had completely exceeded the realm of a warrior's imagination. Now, he understood that the young man in front of him was abnormal. He could not surpass him at all. If this young man was given a few more decades, no one in Xianzhou would be able to control him. He circulated the true essence in his entire body and displayed the attributes of the wind and cloud dual elements. In front of the 5 elements Dao intent, using the 5 elements martial soul was simply asking for a beating. No matter what martial soul you had, as long as it was the 5 elements, you would be completely restrained. Only the wind and cloud attribute was not among the 5 elements. Coupled with his powerful 5th heaven martial saint cultivation, he hoped to defeat Li Lingtian. He extended his hand and a strange weapon appeared in his hand. Sword of Wind and Cloud. The Wind Cloud martial saint shouted and raised the Wind Cloud sword in his hand. Instantly, the sky changed color and the clouds surged as if the world was about to be destroyed. All the experts in the army looked at the wind and clouds in the sky, and their expressions changed drastically. The sword of wind and cloud waved, and the wind and clouds in the world formed a huge sword light that could destroy the world. The wind and clouds fused, and the world was unpredictable. It had mysterious power and effects. The giant sword's radiance seemed to be about to destroy Li Lingtian. At this moment, Li Lingtian was like a leaf in the midst of endless waves. However, at that moment, Li Lingtian's body swayed. He waved his hand in the air, and his posture was extremely elegant. His every move carried the demeanor of a mighty figure, making all the experts in the world sigh in admiration. At that moment, the space trembled and 99 5-colored spiritual pearls appeared in the air. The 99 5-colored spiritual pearls began to revolve around Li Lingtian. Every time it rotated, the world would tremble, and an independent time would appear. In the eyes of the army and powerhouses, a 100-meter-wide world of light appeared around Li Lingtian. This world of light was made of colorful glass and it was practically a mirage. 9 heaven stars. Li Lingtian spoke in a low voice with a sincere look on his face. At the same time, he exuded the might of an ancient mighty figure that shocked all the powerhouses in the world. As the 9 sky stars appeared, Li Lingtian stepped forward to meet the sword of wind and cloud. The 9 heavenly stars. 9 heaven stars. This is the 9 heaven stars. What a magical 9 heaven star technique. It's the technique of an ancient mighty figure, the 9 heaven star technique. Looking at the independent world in the sky, the experts of the world were shocked. The tens of millions of soldiers had looks of worship in their eyes. All of them prostrated on the ground as if they had seen a god. His eyes were filled with Yu Cheng. At this moment, Li Lingtian was no longer that young man but an indomitable almighty powerhouse, an invincible existence. Tang Qingyue and the others were filled with happiness and sweetness. This heaven-defying man was their man. The man who loved them was extremely gentle in front of them. It was a blessing for a woman to have such a powerful man. It was an indescribable happiness and sweetness. The supreme experts of Qingxian also looked at the figure in the sky with worship. Similarly, Marshal Saint Ming Luo and the others were extremely excited. Although Li Lingtian had used the 9 heavenly stars before, he had never truly displayed it in a battle before. Now that he had used it, this power and strength was already indescribable. Having a powerful master was also a lucky thing. Not to mention the other experts and martial saints, even Shenyuan Qingqing, who didn't know anything, was very happy to see this atmosphere. The powerful man in the air was her imperial uncle. Although they did not spend much time together, she naturally understood the love that Li Lingtian gave her. She was Li Lingtian's treasure. Although he was her imperial uncle, Li Lingtian was no different from her parents in her heart. Her parent-like imperial uncle was so powerful, so she was naturally extremely happy. Looking at the countless armies prostrating and worshipping her, she was naturally overjoyed. The stars in the 9 heavens. This world belongs to me. This world belongs to me. I will be invincible and sweep the world. All living beings will submit to me. Because I am the ruler of this world, the ruler of all things in the world. Li Lingtian spoke indifferently with a calm expression on his face. His entire body exuded the aura of a god descending upon the world. His eyes looked down on the world and looked down on all living beings. His tone was overbearing. Even the martial saint powerhouses who heard Li Lingtian's words felt that only a powerhouse like Li Lingtian could say such words. At this moment, no one called Li Lingtian arrogant and ignorant because they were not qualified to comment on him. Moreover, Li Lingtian had the right to boast. The 99 five-colored spiritual pearls kept spinning, and the five elements world became more and more solid. A strange aura appeared between heaven and earth. Space was a large world while Li Lingtian was surrounded by a small world. However, the small world did not clash with the large world. On the contrary, countless mysterious auras in the sky had merged into the five elements world. This was the 9 skies stars, a terrifying almighty technique, a legendary existence. The wind cloud martial saint looked excited, but he was also frightened. He knew that he had failed miserably this time. He had failed at the hands of a martial emperor. Moreover, this martial monarch realm expert was only in his 20s. The age difference between the two of them was dozens of times. In this world, comparing people was infuriating. When other martial artists were in their 20s, the heaven-defying ones were martial emperors. Most of them were still mixed in with martial kings and martial spirits. However, Li Lingtian had already formed the 9 skies of stars and formed an independent world. This made Wind Cloud Martial Saint, one of the 10 great martial saints of Moonsong Kingdom, feel fearful. However, he did not regret it at all. On the contrary, he was excited because he had seen a true expert, a peerless expert who was about to defy the heavens and see the legendary almighty technique of the upper realm. Boom! The entire process seemed slow, but it only took a few seconds. The sword of wind and cloud slashed down in front of the 9 heavens star with destructive power. He did not believe that a martial emperor powerhouse's skill could block his trump card. However, when he saw the sword of wind and cloud slashing at the stars in the 9 heavens, he believed it. With a shocking explosion, the destructive power of the wind and cloud sword seemed to have slashed a huge planet. The 9 skies star appeared weak and helpless, but the destructive attack only caused the 9 skies star to tremble slightly. Li Lingtian's body trembled as well, but he quickly stabilized himself. The sword of wind and cloud vanished and the destructive force dissipated. All of Li Lingtian was absorbed by the 9 skies stars. Originally it was the 5 elements Dao intent. Now that the wind and cloud force had been added to it, the power of the 9 skies stars had become even stronger. Li Lingtian walked toward the wind and cloud martial saint step by step. The speed seemed to be extremely slow, but it covered 100 miles in a blink of an eye. In the blink of an eye, Li Lingtian was already in front of the wind cloud martial saint. The 9 heavenly stars ignored the wind cloud martial saint's defense and sucked him in. The wind cloud martial saint didn't struggle in front of the 9 sky stars. He knew that he had to attack from the outside if he wanted to break the 9 sky stars. However, he gave up on this idea when he encountered the 9 sky stars. The 9 heavenly stars ignored attacks and defenses. Unless one encountered a heaven-defying mighty figure, it was impossible to break them from the outside. However, once they entered, they would become a lamb waiting to be slaughtered by Li Lingtian. Boom! The shocking aura of a martial saint exploded in the stars in the 9 heavens. The stars in the 9 skies trembled, but Li Lingtian's expression did not change at all. He did not have any intention of making a move either. Chapter 635. The end of the war. All right, I admit defeat. Martial Saint Fengyun's face turned ashen and he looked extremely depressed. He spoke indifferently, as if he had aged decades. All the experts in the army did not understand what was going on. They did not know why the Fengyun martial saint had admitted defeat. However, only the person involved understood that after Martial Saint Fengyun entered the 9 skies star, he felt his entire body being confined. Even if he used the Martial Saint's aura, he had to reverse his meridians and true origin to forcefully use it. After that attack, his true essence quickly flowed out, and he could not even move his fingers. What terrified him was that he was like an ant in the 9 skies of stars. Li Lingtian's consciousness was everywhere. As long as Li Lingtian used his divine consciousness, he would be destroyed instantly. In this way, Li Lingtian would be injured but he would die. Therefore, they could only admit defeat at this time. If they continued to struggle, it would not be good for either of them. There was another problem. He did not wish to perish together as he cherished his talent. He did not want to fall and injure Li Lingtian. If the 9 Skies stars were to backfire, Li Lingtian would definitely suffer a devastating blow. Everything was fleeting clouds. He now understood that at this moment, admitting defeat was instead free and easy. Crash! Li Lingtian's figure vanished in a strange manner, and so did the independent world of the 9 Skies of stars. When he reappeared, Li Lingtian was already above the city wall. He looked at the Wind Cloud Martial Saint indifferently. It was not that he did not believe in the Wind Cloud Martial Saint, but he did not believe in this world. If he took away the 9 Skies stars, he would inevitably be attacked by the Wind Cloud Martial Saint. Everything between heaven and earth recovered. The entire army looked at Li Lingtian on the city wall with admiration. The strong had no country, and the warriors only worshipped the true strong. Sir Lingtian, goodbye in Moonsong Kingdom. In the sky, the Wind Cloud Martial Saint looked at Li Lingtian and spoke loudly. As soon as he finished speaking, his figure flashed and disappeared strangely. However, the moment the Wind Cloud Martial Saint disappeared, a scream sounded in the sky. Ah! Puff puff puff. A series of screams came from Chang Tianfeng and the others. The screams resounded throughout the world. At this moment, the Fengyun Martial Saint was already far away in the sky. The speed of the wind element was heaven-defying, coming and going without a trace. However, Chang Tianfeng and the others began to fall, and their vitality quickly disappeared. 3/3 Sky Martial Saints and 2 First Sky Martial Saints had fallen. This change shocked the entire army. They never expected the Wind Cloud Martial Saint to help Li Lingtian by eliminating 3/3 Heaven Martial Saints and 2 First Heaven Martial Saints. Under such circumstances, the morale of the armies of the 6 dynasties was completely gone. Kill them! Seeing this, Heavenly Monster King and Martial Saint Yunhao gave the order. Immediately, the battle between the 2 armies began again. The tragic battle between Martial Saints appeared in the sky again. 3/3 Sky Martial Saints and 2 First Sky Martial Saints had fallen, leaving only 5 Martial Saints in the 6 Nations army. On the Qingxian side, Martial Saint Ming Luo and the other 2 were all 3rd Sky Martial Saints, as well as a dozen First Sky Martial Saints. Under the reversal of the situation, all the Martial Saint experts of the 6 states' armies had fallen. Kill them! Kill them! Kill them! The heaven-shaking shouts, the destructive attacks of the flaming gold demonic dragons, and the slaughter of the Divine Wind Legion and Divine Dragon Legion caused the hearts of the armies of the 6 dynasties to tremble. They had no intention of fighting and were completely prepared to flee. However, a dozen Martial Saints from the Qingxian Kingdom had arrived far away and completely blocked their escape route. As long as a Martial Emperor expert escaped, he would unleash a destructive attack to kill him instantly. I'll travel all over the Black Continent and fight for the world for young master. Sweep the world, rule the world for the young lord. The morale of the army soared. Li Lingtian's strength had become the soul of the army. All the powerhouses and the army were engaged in a constant battle. Hot-blooded, the hot-blooded nature of a man was fully displayed at this moment. Shouts of killing continued, but Li Lingtian did not stop. Even if the 6 nations' armies surrendered, Li Lingtian had no intention of showing any mercy. All right, those who submit, stay. Those who don't submit, destroy them. After half an hour, the armies of the 6 dynasties in Qingxian had lost more than 2 million men. Li Lingtian looked pleased as countless martial emperor and supreme realm powerhouses had submitted to him. There were also countless who were killed by martial saints. His iron-blooded methods made the armies of the world afraid. He waved his hand and said to Shenyuan Bailing. After he finished speaking, he descended and came to Tang Qingyue and the others with a gentle smile on his face. No matter what he did outside, he had to be gentle in front of his women because they were his wives and loved each other for life. Come, Qingqing, let uncle hug you. Li Lingtian walked up to Shenyuan Yingying and called out to Shenyuan Qingqing. The smile on his face had a hint of kindness. Imperial uncle is so powerful. By the way, uncle, are you tired? Why don't Qingqing hug uncle when he's not tired? Shenyuan Qingqing happily ran to Li Lingtian's side and threw herself into his arms. Li Lingtian hugged her in his arms with a smile on his face. Xianyuan Qingqing looked at Li Lingtian with concern when she saw that he was injured from the battle. Her bright eyes sized him up as she spoke in a sweet voice.
Yes, uncle is not tired.
Li Lingtian's face was filled with joy, but his heart was filled with satisfaction. This little girl's words were heartwarming. Huangfu Yuyan and the others were extremely happy. Only at this moment did they feel like they were at home.
After that, the group of people looked at the battle below.
At this time, the battle had basically reached the end. They were all fighting with a bit of physical strength and the will to survive. Those who obey will prosper, and those who rebel will dive. Those who submit, stay. Those who resist, die. Shenyuan Bailing shouted loudly. At this moment, he appeared and commanded the entire battlefield. In short, all the armies of the 6 states had submitted. Even martial venerables and martial emperors had submitted. If they did not submit, they would die. No one wanted to die. In an instant, the battle stopped. The Qingxian army quickly gathered together. Although they looked tired, they were excited. The Qingxian nation had used a single nation to defend against the combined attack of 6 other nations, and in the end, they had completely defeated the 6 nations. Furthermore, they had witnessed the might of young Emperor Li Lingtian. The entire Qingxian army was extremely excited. Li Lingtian led Tang Qingyue and the others away from the city wall. The other matters were naturally handled by Qingxian's generals. The Divine Wind and Divine Dragon legions would also need to be developed and incorporated at this time. He had nothing to do here, and with his current status, he naturally wouldn't do such ordinary things. The gains from this battle were beyond his imagination. He had destroyed the armies of the 6 dynasties and killed the 3rd sky of the martial saint realm in front of the armies of the world. He had shown his power. Facing the experts of the world, he had fought against the 10 martial saints of Moonsong Kingdom and defeated a 5th heaven martial saint. This had made his name known. This way, it would bring immeasurable benefits to the development of the army. Furthermore, more than 2 million of the 6 nations' army had fallen. The rest had been incorporated into Li Lingtian's army. The martial emperors, martial supremes, and martial emperors had become powerful armies under Li Lingtian's command. The existence of the flaming gold demonic dragon was undoubtedly a killing weapon in a war. Just by throwing this dragon into the army, it could determine the outcome of a war. This time, Li Lingtian's heaven-defying strength shocked the various countries and left the 6 nations in fear. The 6 states joined forces to attack Qingxian with the intention of annexing the country. However, they did not expect Li Lingtian to double the number and kill all 7 million of the 6 states' troops. All the martial saints were killed and the martial emperors were subdued. With the army reorganized, Qingxian's influence and Li Lingtian's influence soared. With so many spiritual stones and resources entering Qingxian, the 6 states were like ants on a hot pan, not knowing what to do. They were the ones who had started the war. Now that they had been destroyed by the other party would definitely not let it go. These things were all from the outside world. Li Lingtian led Tang Qing and the others back to Yuran Palace to rest. This battle was not only a victory on the surface, but he had also gained a lot of benefits. The storage pouch of a martial saint and the experience of a great battle. If he used the 9 heaven stars to defeat a true expert, he would have a better understanding of his own forces. He didn't need any other treasures. He only needed skills and divine arts to establish himself in the world. When one's cultivation realm reached their level, weapons were rarely used. Unless it was a supreme saint artifact like the Tianyu sword or a divine artifact, other weapons were useless. However, it was risky to use the 9 sky stars at the end. If he killed the wind cloud martial saint, he would be severely injured. He now understood that his cultivation was still too low. He had to raise his cultivation. Moreover, his strength had already been exposed. The strength of his army had also been exposed. The other countries, kingdoms, and supreme experts would definitely not let him off. He had to raise his cultivation and transform all kinds of heaven-defying treasures and skills into divine powers. Otherwise, he would be schemed against by other experts. The other super experts were not fools. Knowing that you had the 9 heaven stars, they would definitely think of a way to plot against you. If they wanted to take the initiative, they would have to attack in other areas. After returning to the Yuran Palace, he began to cultivate in seclusion. He meditated and cultivated in his room for half a month. The fourth heaven martial emperor realm was already at the peak of the complete realm. He was only a step away from breaking through to the fifth heaven. If one reached the fifth heaven, their cultivation would skyrocket. No matter what realm one was at, the fourth and fifth heavens were completely different worlds. It was the same for the eighth heaven and ninth heaven. Not to mention the supreme realm, even the martial emperors below the supreme realm were completely different. However, it was not so easy to reach the fifth heaven. One needed some opportunities. He had a lot of medicinal pills, but it was no longer possible to increase his cultivation now. When his cultivation reached the peak of perfection, he could only look for an opportunity to break through. Although he was anxious about his cultivation, he also understood that this kind of thing could not be rushed. If his cultivation could not break through, he would cultivate his skills and nourish his treasures. There were countless things he had to do. Just the treasures and skills alone were enough for him to cultivate for a period of time. Every day was full, but half of the time was spent with his wife and teaching Qingqing. Chapter 636. The beginning of the battle. Half a month had passed and Li Lingtian had gained a lot. The experience gained from fighting against experts was gained by risking one's life. It was impossible to gain true experience without danger. A month had passed since the war. During this month, the 6 nations were shocked. Martial saints had fallen, and the 7 million soldiers had never returned. Moreover, the news of the battle between the Wind Cloud Martial Saint and Li Lingtian, one of the 10 great martial saints in Moonsong Kingdom, had spread throughout the kingdom. A martial emperor powerhouse had mastered the 5 elements, will of the great perfection, and cultivated the 9 heavenly stars. He had also cultivated his sword intent and sword force. He was at the 4th heaven of the martial emperor realm and had defeated one of the 10 great martial saints. The appearance of such a heaven-defying expert shook the entire Moonsong Kingdom. Countless experts didn't believe it, but the army had seen it, so no one would spread the rumor. Besides, the Fengyun martial saint, one of the 10 great martial saints, didn't say anything, so he naturally agreed. The war had begun, and the Moonsong Kingdom was about to be thrown into chaos. Countless countries began to withdraw their troops and experts, preparing for the arrival of the war. Their main focus was on Qingxian. The core members of the 6 nations were all in a constant state of panic. Li Lingtian's strength was heaven-defying. Furthermore, the Wind Cloud Martial Saint had eliminated 3/3 heaven martial saints from the 6 nations. This was enough to prove that the Wind Cloud Martial Saint had helped Li Lingtian. Even though the 2 of them had a great battle, they had helped Li Lingtian in the end. This meant that both of them were optimistic about Li Lingtian. It was the 6 nations' bad luck to have provoked someone they shouldn't have. It was too late for regrets now. As time passed, although the Qingxian kingdom did not make any moves to take revenge, the 6 nations became more and more uneasy because the Qingxian kingdom was reorganizing their army. They gathered their forces and formed an army of over 10 million soldiers to guard Qingxian. 3 million of them were martial kings. Moreover, the Divine Wind Legion and the Divine Dragon Legion had more than 400,000 people. Such an army would make any country afraid. In Qingxian, all the armies were reorganized. They knew that the war had not really begun. Once the army was reorganized, it would be the time for the war in Xian continent to break out. Li Lingtian had personally visited the drill ground a few times. His presence boosted morale. Millions of troops were reorganized and would sweep out at Li Lingtian's command. On this day, Li Lingtian brought Tang Qingyue and the others to the drill ground. Qingxian's territory was 1,000 miles wide, and it was a place for training. By the time Li Lingtian arrived, the 3 million-strong army had already been reorganized and gathered in the drill ground. The army of 3 million soldiers was extremely excited. Although the fate of the war was uncertain, and hundreds of thousands of people would die at any time, for a man, a hot-blooded man, a war was their battlefield. Moreover, there were generous rewards for great battles, and the storage pouches obtained belonged to them. In other words, the battlefield was a place for killing and robbing treasures. The only difference was that there was a target for killing and robbing treasures. They were killing the enemy, not their own army. Young Master D, Young Master D, Young Master D, Young Master D. Li Lingtian's arrival brought cheers from the 3 million-strong army. Their voices were like thunder that shook the 9 heavens. Li Lingtian was extremely satisfied with the army. After all, the army was at least a warrior king. With 3 million soldiers, it was enough to shake the other 10 million soldiers or even make them stronger. Moreover, Li Lingtian had specially researched several formations that were suitable for use in a war. A formation formed by 100 soldiers was equivalent to 1,000 soldiers. Coupled with the orderly strength of a warrior king, it would be more advantageous during a war. Li Lingtian waved his hand and stopped talking. Step by step, he walked up the tall steps. There were more than a dozen super experts standing respectfully on top.
Each of these powerhouses was a 9th heaven martial emperor and a general of an army.
They had been specially trained to command in battle. A great battle relied on true strength to kill, but a good general could save countless soldiers from destruction. Marshal Saint Yunhao and the others stood at the side. There were a total of 15 Marshal Saint experts. Although they did not attack, they could suppress the Marshal Saint experts.
I won't say anything more.
In a great war, there will be destruction and new life. A man must train in blood and fire to become a true expert. The winds and clouds in Xianzhou are surging. I'm going to fight for the world. I'll start with you. Can you become my vanguard? Li Lingtian arrived at the top of the stairs and his body exploded with a shocking aura. One of them was the powerful aura of a superior, while the other was the aura of a sovereign. He didn't need to say anything or show anything. All the troops had seen him fight and defeat a heaven-defying 5th Sky Marshal Saint expert. There was no need to explain. One sentence was enough to raise the morale of the army. Yes, become young Master D's vanguard. Wherever he goes, he will be invincible. I'm willing to pave the way for young Master D, sweep the Xian continent, and unify the world. All the soldiers replied loudly, their voices shaking the sky and spreading thousands of miles away. Li Lingtian's morale was also rising steadily as he smiled. Then, Marshal Saint Yunhao and Heavenly Demon King talked about the rewards and compensation for the war. There were deaths and lives in the war. Even if they died, they had to give an explanation to their families. If they won, they would receive additional rewards. Every time you kill an opponent, you will be rewarded with the corresponding pills and spirit stones. The wealth obtained from killing the opponent belongs to you, but the medicinal herbs and materials will be handed over. Similarly, our young master is a super saint alchemist. He is an existence that refines a Tier 7 peerless great rejuvenating pill. All the pills he refines are peerless existences. As long as you can kill your opponents and survive, you will have the chance to obtain the peerless medicinal pills personally refined by the young master. Those who have made significant contributions and battle merits can apply for guidance from the young master. Yunhao Marshal Saint said loudly at the end. This was undoubtedly what the army wanted to hear the most. This was because Li Lingtian had become their legend and legend. They managed to dig up all the information about Li Lingtian in the past, but it was all from Xianzhou. However, some people knew that Li Lingtian was a powerhouse who had crossed over from another place. Li Lingtian's heaven-defying abilities had already made them admire him to the extreme. A super divine alchemist, a 23-year-old divine alchemist and a heaven-defying powerhouse. Everything about him was simply a myth, an existence that surpassed myths. Furthermore, the pills refined by Li Lingtian had broken the legends of the divine martial continent. All the pills were peerless and even mutated. If they could obtain the elixir refined by Li Lingtian, they would gain experience and their cultivation base would improve. They would then become powerhouses. I'll do anything for young Master D. I will sweep the Black Continent and unify the world for young Master D. The entire army was incomparably excited as they shouted in unison. A warrior's life was all about survival, power, and power. War was the law of power and survival. All right. I've ordered an all-out attack on the Black Civ Kingdom. Li Lingtian stepped forward and waved his hand.
As the soul of an army, he believed that his every move was guided by the countless armies.
Boom! Tong! Boom! Tong! The war drums shook the sky, and the army swept out of the drill ground like a machine that swept the world. The 3 million soldiers were all at the Martial King realm and above. On the left was the Divine Wind Legion, and on the right was the Divine Dragon Legion. The 2 legions and the 6 million ordinary soldiers charged toward the Qing Luo kingdom. The speed of an army formed by experts above the martial king realm was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, the 3 million-strong army disappeared from the drill ground, rushing into the distance. Husband, you can't refine pills during this period of time, right? Shun Mei stood by Li Lingtian's side as she watched the army leave. During this period of time, Li Lingtian was either recuperating, resting, or cultivating. He did not refine any pills at all. The number of pills used by the army was shocking. If he took it out as a reward, the number would be huge. Although only a portion of the army had obtained the pills he refined, even ordinary pills were shocking. It's impossible to refine pills. I have to supervise the war between the 6 nations. I have to wipe them out in a short time. But we still have other things to do. The serious expression on Li Lingtian's face relaxed. This was the first time the army had taken the initiative to attack another country, so they had to be careful. Although the army was powerful, accidents were inevitable. For example, the Wind Cloud Martial Saint appeared last time. If it wasn't for his heaven-defying abilities, Qing Xian would definitely be finished. Although such a thing might happen, they still had to be on guard. Moreover, the movement in Qing Xian Kingdom had already attracted the attention of the other kingdoms in Moonsong Kingdom, and countless super experts were watching them. He could not let any accidents happen. Even if they did, he had to nip them in the bud. What is it? Tang Ziming looked at Li Lingtian curiously. As they spent more time together, their feelings for each other grew deeper and deeper. The girls were all clingy with Li Lingtian. However, they knew their limits. They stood silently behind Li Lingtian at all times to encourage and support him. Although Qing Xian doesn't have any saint alchemists, there are still quite a number of spirit alchemists. We just need to make a public announcement and countless pill refiners or disciples with talent in pill refining will come. When the time comes, we will nurture them and these pill refiners will grow rapidly. The growth of an alchemist is the accumulation of countless medicinal herbs and resources. The reason why some families, commanderies, and even countries can't cultivate alchemists is because of the lack of resources and medicinal herbs. I have countless medicinal herbs. I can use the medicinal herbs from the battlefield to train pill refiners. It won't be a problem to train a few pill refiners. Even if there aren't any saint alchemists, we can still produce countless spirit alchemists and pill grandmasters. At that time, we can refine pills from level 1 to level 6. The appearance of pills that we can size up will become the cohesion of the army. Li Lingtian's lips curled into a smile. With money, nothing was a problem. In this world, or even in another world, problems that could be solved with money were not problems. Qing Xian did not lack talents, but they lacked a person to guide them. He was confident that he could unearth those talents. Chapter 637 Xiaoyao Dynasty 1. I see. Huangfu Yuyan finally understood what Li Lingtian meant. She was smart and knowledgeable, but there were times when she did not expect it. Li Lingtian rarely made decisions, but he always thought about everything carefully. The army needed an endless supply of medicinal pills. It was naturally not enough for him alone. However, Qing Xian did not lack manpower. Naturally, they needed to use it. At that time, countless alchemists will become Big Brother Lingtian's disciples and serve Big Brother Lingtian. Shenyuan Yingying was elated as well. She could already imagine the scene of tens of thousands of alchemists working for Li Lingtian. Everyone knew how heaven-defying Li Lingtian was and how capable he was. He had countless armies, but if he had an endless number of alchemists, he could control the fate of a kingdom or even an empire. Medicinal pills were as important to martial artists as humans were to air and water. Li Lingtian's control of alchemy Dao was equivalent to controlling the fate of the warriors and the fate of the world. However, before he could control the fate of the world, he had to control his own fate. This required him to become stronger. Let's go back first. In 2 days, I'll reorganize the Divine Martial Army and the War God Army. I'll also need to build a battleship army. Li Lingtian smiled gently as he watched the girls chattering away. No matter what the occasion was, he would always be gentle in front of his women because they were his family and his lovers. That's right. Big Brother's War God is also extremely powerful. When the time comes, we can build some war gods. That way we can sweep the world. Darling's war god is indeed powerful, but you have to be careful of the kingdom and empire's ferocious gazes. The divine martial army and the war god army that Ling Tian mentioned have quite a number of people. However, try not to let the other kingdoms know about this, let alone the empire. That's right. After all, these two legions are too heaven-defying. If the other empires and kingdoms find out about this, they will definitely understand our goal. They will take advantage of the fact that we haven't become strong to eliminate us. If that happens, it will definitely be disadvantageous for us. The girls voiced their opinions after hearing Li Lingtian mention the divine martial army and the war god army. Li Lingtian kept nodding his head as he kept their opinions in mind. Even though he had a plan in mind, he did not underestimate the girls' opinions. Sometimes, a smart person would be muddle-headed for a while. He did not want to be muddle-headed at all, because after this muddle-headed person, there would be no disaster. Yes, we still have a lot of things to do during this period of time. Let's conserve our strength. When the time comes, the war will truly erupt. Right now, it's just a small fight. Li Lingtian nodded as he spoke calmly before leading Tang Genji and the others back to Yuran Palace. The 6 nations were shaken as the 3 million-strong army of Qing Xian charged towards the Qing Civ nation with a shocking might. Countless experts had witnessed the army of the Qing Xian kingdom and were shocked. Even though the Qing Civ kingdom was powerful, it was not much weaker than the Qing Xian kingdom. However, in the previous war between the 6 countries, the Qing Civ kingdom had lost countless troops and experts. The 3rd and 1st Heaven Martial Saints had fallen, and their morale was low. Even the combined armies of the 6 dynasties were no match for Qing Xian. Now that Qing Xian's army was several times stronger than before, and they were attacking the Qing Civ kingdom, the entire Qing Civ kingdom was shaken. Moreover, Li Lingtian's reputation was heaven-defying, so they were all extremely afraid. The entire kingdom knew about the commotion in Qing Xian, but Moonsong Kingdom didn't say anything. In the eyes of the kingdom, the war between the kingdoms was nothing to them. As long as the kingdom sent any army or expert, they could wipe out the kingdoms. However, what happened next caught the attention of the kingdom. On the first day of the war, the Black Civ kingdom was destroyed. Within a day, the Qing Xian kingdom had conquered the Qing Civ kingdom. Countless martial saints were trapped by the formations of the Qing Xian kingdom. The flaming gold demonic dragon swept through the Qing Civ kingdom and conquered the cities within an hour. The war ended in 3 hours. Out of the 11 martial saints, 6 had fallen and 5 had submitted. On the second day of the battle, the Tianluo kingdom was destroyed. Out of the 16 martial saints, 6 had fallen and 10 had surrendered. On the third day of the battle, the Black Water kingdom was destroyed. 6 of the 9 martial saints died, and 3 surrendered. On the fourth day of the battle, the Southern School nation was destroyed. Out of the 11 martial saints, 2 had fallen and 9 had submitted. On the fifth day of the battle, Yen Ligua was destroyed. Out of the 6 martial saints, 3 had fallen and 3 had submitted. On the sixth day of the battle, the Dongming country surrendered unconditionally. All 13 martial saints surrendered. In just 6 days, the 6 dynasties were destroyed and all of them were conquered by Qing Xian. Instantly, the Divine Wind Legion had reached 600,000 troops, while the Divine Dragon Legion had reached 500,000 troops. Moreover, the Divine Martial Army had been officially established in the main world. The entire Divine Martial Army was made up of martial emperor powerhouses. The Divine Martial Army, which had not appeared all this while, now had more than 50,000 members. They were all made up of martial emperor powerhouses. Furthermore, all the martial emperor powerhouses who had submitted to him had entered the Divine Martial Army. A portion of the martial saint powerhouses had entered the army to hold the line for the 3 great armies while a portion had returned to the Qing Xian kingdom. The army of Qing Xian had attacked 6 countries in 6 days. The number of soldiers had reached 7 million, and their strength was getting stronger and stronger. Countless wealth had entered Qing Xian's hands, and countless martial emperors and martial saints had become generals under Heaven Demon King and Martial Saint Yunhao. Martial Saint Ming Luo was also the commander of the Divine Martial Army. In his hands,
An army of 50,000 martial emperor powerhouses could be considered a killing weapon in a war. The Divine Martial Army was also in existence that supervised the Divine Wind Army and the Divine Dragon Army. They specialized in dealing with martial saints in cities that were difficult to attack. The appearance of these three legions and the destruction of the 6 nations completely shook the kingdom. An army of 7 million elites, 3 invincible legions, they had an unstoppable momentum, they were invincible. Currently, there were a total of 33 martial saints in the army. 20 of them were in the Divine Martial Army while the rest were in the Divine Wind Army and the Divine Dragon Army. The martial saint powerhouses who submitted returned to Qing Xian and Li Lingtian's side to receive his guidance. The destruction of the 6 nations had caused Qing Xian's reputation to soar. However, Li Lingtian gradually retreated behind the scenes. Countless countries knew about the 3 great armies, Qing Xian, but they rarely knew about Li Lingtian. However, the true powerhouses and higher-ups were not afraid of the 3 great armies but Li Lingtian, who was hiding behind the scenes. After the victory of the war, Qing Xian reorganized their army and consolidated the territories of the 6 kingdoms. The 6 kingdoms still existed, but the rulers had to be determined by Qing Xian. Because Qing Xian was their master, they had to listen to Qing Xian's orders. The royal kingdom was enraged. The Qing Xian kingdom was undoubtedly trying to shake the status of the royal kingdom and compete with the royal kingdom for the world. In the past, the royal kingdoms had thought that the war between the kingdoms was nothing more than for status. Qing Xian attacking the 6 kingdoms was revenge. Now, they saw that the situation was not right. Qing Xian wanted to destroy the royal kingdoms and replace them. Li Lingtian issued an oracle. The 7 kingdoms of Qing Luo, Qing Xian, Tian Luo, Blackwater, Nanshao, Dongming, and Yanlai would be merged to form the Xiaoyao dynasty. The Qing Xian country was the headquarters of the Xiaoyao dynasty, and the 7 countries had to obey the Xiaoyao dynasty's rule. The entire army was reorganized and the entire country was unified to deal with all kinds of wars and provocations. The Xiaoyao dynasty is officially established. Anyone who dares to provoke the Xiaoyao dynasty will be destroyed. An oracle spread throughout the 7 kingdoms, and the army cheered. All the troops were reorganized and awaiting Li Lingtian's orders. After conquering a territory, they still needed to reorganize. A true warrior did not attack and kill, but consolidated his spoils of war. Li Lingtian wanted to consolidate his territory as firmly as an iron bucket because he had accepted the blow from Moonsong Kingdom. The Moonsong Kingdom was the ruler of the 36 countries. Now that the Qing Xian Kingdom had become the free and unfettered dynasty, there was no doubt that they wanted to destroy the Moonsong Kingdom. He wasn't arrogant. Even though he had easily attacked a few countries, he knew that he didn't have the strength to fight against the Moonsong Kingdom. Just the martial saint of the Moonsong Kingdom was not someone he could deal with. Moreover, the countries that he attacked were basically low-grade countries. There were also medium-grade countries and high-grade countries. There were many experts in them. If he wanted to attack these countries, he had to strengthen his own forces. Putting aside the army, the main thing was to nurture a true martial saint powerhouse who could fight a 5th heaven martial saint head-on. The Wind Cloud Martial Saint alone was enough to give him a headache. Moreover, the Wind Cloud Martial Saint was only one of the 10 great martial saints. There must be someone more powerful than the Wind Cloud Martial Saint among them. Many experts didn't even bother to fight for the position of the 10 great martial saints. Therefore, those hidden super experts were also a threat. Now, he had to consolidate his territory and strengthen his power and strength. After the war, the entire country was reorganized. In half a month, the smoke from the war seemed to have disappeared into thin air. The countries changed dynasties, and new rulers appeared. Those who submitted were nurtured, and those who resisted were destroyed. Qing Xian was still Qing Xian. The Xiaoyao Empire was just a name, the soul of a country. However, everything had to be approved by the Xiaoyao dynasty. On that day, Li Lingtian posted a message. The release of this information immediately caused countless people to go crazy. Freedom King Dynasty's young emperor's decree: as long as you have talent in pill concoction and weapon forging, as well as genius in array formations, all of them are able to enter the Carefree Dynasty for the assessment and receive Li Lingtian's guidance. The news quickly spread throughout the Qing Xian Kingdom. In an instant, countless commanderies had heard of it. In a short 3 days, this news had spread throughout the 7 countries. Countless geniuses of array Dao, alchemy Dao, and craftsmanship Dao had rushed to the southern mountain city of Qingxian. Li Lingtian was a super holy alchemist and a super holy array master. If he could receive Li Lingtian's guidance, he would have a bright future ahead of him. If he became Li Lingtian's disciple, his status would skyrocket. With that, countless inns in southern Peak City were packed to the brim. Countless array Dao, alchemy Dao and weapon refining Dao geniuses came to southern Peak City to accept Li Lingtian's assessment in hopes of entering the carefree dynasty. Chapter 638. Expansion of Power, 1. Young Master D is recruiting alchemists and array masters. Not only that, but there should also be blacksmiths. As long as they pass young Master D's test, there's hope for them to stay and work for young Master D and receive guidance from him. That's right. Young Master D is a super alchemy saint and an alchemy saint expert. That's right. Even the 3 saint alchemists of the Xian continent aren't as powerful as a super saint alchemist who can concoct a level 7 peerless grade great cyclic pellet. If I can be valued by young Master D and become his disciple, my future will be limitless. Young Master D's disciple. Even an ordinary princess might not be able to compare. That's right. As long as you're close to young Master D, you can call the wind and summon the rain. However, only true array Dao and alchemy Dao geniuses can receive young Master D's guidance. If young Master D were to give pointers, how would he have so much time? Li Lingtian's oracle was everywhere in the 7 nations. Countless genius disciples had gathered in southern Peak City. In an instant, southern Peak City was bursting with popularity, reaching a peak. If there was a place in Moonsong Kingdom that was the most lively, it would naturally be southern Peak City. The cohesiveness of a saint alchemist and a saint array master could be seen at this moment. Furthermore, Li Lingtian was a super divine alchemist, a super divine array master, a super powerful powerhouse, and the existence of a martial emperor defeating one of the 10 great martial saints. However, the legend in everyone's hearts began his war god structure in the Yuran Palace. The war god was indeed powerful, but it was not enough to deal with a martial supreme. However, it would not pose much of a threat to a martial saint. Therefore he wanted to change the war god. He would strive to increase his power and defense. That way, he would be able to withstand the attack of a martial saint expert. A full-powered attack would also be able to threaten a martial saint expert. 3 days later, Li Lingtian walked out of his room with a faint smile on his face. There was a huge blueprint in his hand. On it was a drawing of a huge warship. Big brother Lingtian, is this the war god you want to build? Shenyuan Yingying looked at the blueprint in Li Lingtian's hands and her face broke into an excited smile. She was curious about how powerful Li Lingtian's war god was in the past. She wondered how capable and intelligent Li Lingtian was to come up with such a heaven-defying warship. Now that she had seen Li Lingtian's blueprint with her own eyes, she was even more curious. This blueprint was basically a framework. As a girl, she naturally could not understand it. Only those array masters and artifact refining grandmasters could understand the true power of this blueprint. This blueprint could definitely create a battleship that could threaten martial saints. That's right. This is the blueprint of the war god. It's much more powerful than the previous war god. The insides have also been improved. It uses the inner cores of 6th, 7th, and 8th rank demon beasts. It's enough to destroy a martial saint. However, it's very difficult to find the inner core of a 7th or 8th grade demonic beast. Moreover, when using an 8th grade inner core, you need a top grade spirit stone. With a top grade spirit stone and an 8th grade inner core, there's a chance of killing a martial saint. The number of spirit stones needed to build this war god is much higher than before. The materials and spirit stones needed should be around 200 billion. Li Lingtian said earnestly. Spiritual stones were nothing to him. Because of the time in the bottomless abyss, he had obtained countless spiritual stones. His net worth had already reached more than 20 trillion, and each war god needed 200 billion. This way, he could build at least 100 war gods. 100 war gods, that power was simply heaven-defying. However, he didn't plan to build so many war gods. He planned to build 20 war gods first. The 20 war gods formed 2 battleships. This way, no matter where they were, they would be invincible. The modified war god was more than twice the size of the previous one. It was normal for it to carry 200,000 people. A war god carrying 200,000 powerhouses. Adding on the power of the war god, even if he encountered a heaven-defying martial saint, he would be able to wipe out the war god. He had also thought about it. The war god could only be used by the 4 armies. When he had more materials, he could build more and more powerful war gods. In that case, he could directly use a fleet of battleships in the war, and he would be invincible.
So many spirit stones? Tang Ziming was shocked. 200 billion was only enough to build 1 war god. This was too scary. However, he soon recalled that Li Lingtian had a net worth of over 2 trillion. It would not be difficult for him to build a few war gods. Spirit stones are a small matter. The main thing is the materials. Even if the 7 countries plundered all of them, they might not be able to gather so many materials. During this period of time, I'll take stock of the materials I've obtained from the army. I'll organize the materials and build 10 war gods. Li Lingtian smiled as he stroked Tang Ziming's hair. The materials needed to create a single war god had taken a lot of time to gather back in Azure Continent. Now, to create 10 war gods, the materials needed were simply shocking. Furthermore, the materials for the war god were much more valuable and massive than before, so it was harder to find them. 10 war gods. If you manage to forge them, try not to take them out. After all, we've been standing at the center of the storm for a while now. If an existence like the war god appears, many kingdoms will definitely make a move against us. Huangfu Yuyan reminded Li Lingtian that the divine martial army was already heaven-defying and had attracted the attention of countless countries and kingdoms. If the war god appeared again, Qing Xian would be the first to take the brunt of the attack. Although Qing Xian wanted to conquer the world, they couldn't afford to offend kingdoms and empires before they had a certain level of strength. There were 36 kingdoms in Moonsong Kingdom alone. Moreover, Qing Xian was only a low-grade kingdom. The high-grade kingdoms were incomparably powerful and were not something Qing Xian could contend against. Naturally. Li Lingtian nodded. He intended to equip the war god for the divine martial army and the war god legion. He wanted to use this legion as his trump card. Furthermore, his war god design had increased its speed by several times. Because the opponent was too strong, if the war god was too heavy, it would definitely be destroyed. Hence, speed was of utmost importance. Subsequently, Li Lingtian handed a jade slip to Long Da for him to gather the materials. He himself had to deal with the matter of the Pill Dao Genius and Array Dao Genius. Furthermore, there were countless Spirit Pill Masters and Array Dao Grandmasters who had come for no reason. He didn't want these guys to look down on him. He had to use his true strength to conquer them and make them submit to the carefree empire. Meng Meng, prepare some hot water. I'll take a good bath. I haven't had a good rest recently. It's time to rest. Li Lingtian shouted at Tang Ziming. Although he had been accompanying them all this time, he had not truly relaxed. Firstly, he was worried about the big battle, and secondly, he was worried about some things. He still had to worry about his cultivation, so it was difficult for him to relax. Now that the blueprint for the war god was ready and the training had been arranged, he could naturally relax. As long as the matter was arranged, he would do it according to the arrangement. This way, he did not have to worry. Yes, Tang Ziming agreed happily. Then, she jogged in and entered the back of Yuran Hole. There was a big hot spring inside. It was a few hundred meters wide, and the water was crystal clear. It was warm in winter and cool in summer. It was an excellent environment. After Li Lingtian and the others had built the place, it had become a place for them to play and a place for them to love. Huangfu Yuyan and the others left with smiles on their faces when they heard Li Lingtian's words. Tang Qingyue, however, stayed behind. It was normal for the 2 sisters to accompany Li Lingtian. The other sisters were already used to it. Besides, it was normal to have 3 wives and 4 concubines in the divine martial continent. Moreover, the 2 sisters were peerless beauties. Soon, Tang Qingyue held Li Lingtian's arm and the 2 of them walked toward the back of Yuran Palace intimately. Tang Ziming and Tang Qingyue removed Li Lingtian's clothes and then their own clothes by the pool. The three of them were soaking in the pool. The warm pond water was drowsy as the sisters massaged Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian lay in Tang Qingyue's arms and slowly fell asleep with his eyes closed. He had a satisfied smile on his face. Half an hour later, Li Lingtian woke up. Tang Qingyue and Tang Ziming helped Li Lingtian clear his mind. The three of them made love in the pool before returning to their room. When the three of them returned to their room, the two sisters were already completely powerless. However, after Li Lingtian's massacre, they fell asleep in satisfaction. Things were different now. Although she yearned for such satisfaction, she was more satisfied with Li Lingtian by her side. The satisfaction of the soul was not a desire. While Li Lingtian and the rest were cultivating and resting in Yuran Palace, the army and powerhouses outside were secretly searching for materials. Some powerhouses specialized in hunting Tier 6, 7 and 8 mystical beasts and sea beasts in search of supreme-grade spiritual stones. After 5 days in Yuran Palace, countless geniuses had gathered in southern Peak City, awaiting Li Lingtian's orders. 5 days had passed. Li Lingtian calculated the time and estimated that the geniuses from the 7 nations should be able to arrive by now. Even those who were late were allowed to participate in the assessment. There was no time limit for the recruitment of Array Dao and Alchemy Dao geniuses. To Li Lingtian, the more geniuses, the better. On this day, Li Lingtian instructed all the alchemists to refine a set of pills according to their grades. There were over 10,000 pill refiners in southern Peak City. Although most of them were pill refiners and pill grandmasters, there were also quite a few spirit pill refiners. Li Lingtian took a look at the name list. There were more than 6,000 alchemists, 3,000 level 3 alchemy grandmasters, 1,000 level 4 alchemy grandmasters, 300 level 5 spirit alchemists, and 100 level 6 spirit alchemists. Li Lingtian only took the test for alchemy grandmasters below Tier 4. There was no need to take the test for spirit alchemists because these people could be used directly. Anyone who joined the Carefree Dynasty's Divine Elixir Dispensary would receive the Divine Elixir Dispensary's badge and Li Lingtian's guidance. With Li Lingtian's guidance, countless spirit alchemists were extremely excited. Despite being spirit alchemists, they were more obedient than babies in front of a super divine alchemist like Li Lingtian. This was because they understood that the power of a super alchemy saint was completely not something that could be measured with tier. Chapter 639. Gathering of Geniuses, Greetings, Alchemy Saint. 400 spirit alchemists arrived at the palace and bowed respectfully to Li Lingtian. In this place, Li Lingtian's young emperor was originally the ruler of the Carefree Dynasty. However, they were alchemists and so was Li Lingtian. Calling him Alchemy Saint was more respectful and intimate. If he called him Young Master D, the distance would be widened. This title was something that the alchemists had studied for a long time. In front of Li Lingtian, they were like his disciples. Even a saint alchemist would not dare to be presumptuous in front of Li Lingtian, let alone the alchemists. After all, Li Lingtian's alchemy Dao was powerful and was not something an ordinary saint alchemist could compare to. Li Lingtian's achievements could only be looked up at, not looked at, much less overlooked. There's no need to be so polite. Sit down. Li Lingtian waved his hand with a faint smile on his face. Even though this place was the imperial palace, it was Li Lingtian's private property. Only those superpower houses and generals were qualified to enter. It was an honor for these spirit alchemists to enter. All the alchemists sat on their chairs and looked at Li Lingtian with admiration as they waited for his instructions. Every alchemist's heart was thumping non-stop, as if they had seen their master. The entire palace was filled with 400 spirit alchemists. Li Lingtian sat on the throne at the front of the steps. Xiaoyao and Qingping stood beside him. At this moment, he was just like an ordinary scion of an aristocratic family. However, no one dared to think so. If they really had such thoughts, they would be courting death. Welcome to the Divine Pill Pavilion. If you join the Divine Pill Pavilion, you have to abide by the rules of the Divine Pill Pavilion. The future of the Divine Pill Pavilion will depend on you. The war ahead is going to be an era of fighting for the world. I need a strong logistics group. You guys will be my logistics support. Materials resources, you have an inexhaustible supply. Status and power, it's up to you to fight for it. I can give you some guidance according to your talent, allowing you to reach a higher level on the path of alchemy. Li Lingtian waited for all the spirit alchemists to take their seats before he sipped his tea and spoke calmly. He swept a sharp glance at all the spirit alchemists. Wherever his gaze passed, they all lowered their heads. The spirit alchemists who were high and mighty in the outside world were only a step away from becoming a saint alchemist. However, they showed no resistance in front of Li Lingtian. We will definitely work hard to not embarrass you and bring glory to the Divine Pill Pavilion. All the alchemists were excited. It was harder than ascending to the heavens to advance further in alchemy, because they lacked talent and a guiding lamp to guide them on the bright path. Now that he had the medicinal herbs and resources, as well as a super alchemy saint, he might be able to take a step forward on the path of alchemy if he received guidance in the future. No matter who you have offended in the past, or your family and country. However, once you reach the Divine Pill Pavilion, you will become members of the Divine Pill Pavilion. You can't cause internal strife in the Divine Pill Pavilion. Otherwise, I won't be polite. Similarly, as long as you are in the Divine Pill Pavilion, no one will be able to touch you. Li Lingtian spoke once again to reassure the spirit alchemists. Although the status of an alchemist was extraordinary, it was inevitable that they would offend other warriors and powerhouses. With Li Lingtian's words, no one was afraid of their enemies. Similarly, to be able to say such words, it carried a kind of strength and ability. This meant that the Xiaoyao dynasty could defend against any expert and protect them. This disciple is willing to go through fire and water for you, alchemy saint. All the alchemists were extremely grateful. A true powerhouse would always protect his own people because he had the ability to do so. As long as he did not betray Li Lingtian in the future, he would be safe and would be able to get what he wanted. Alright, from now on, you guys will be refining pills in Qjng Xian country. I will explain the principles and profoundness of alchemy to you guys regularly. Someone will find the required herbs and pill formulas for you. All you need to do is refine the pills and improve your techniques. After Li Lingtian finished speaking, he waved his hand to signal the spirit alchemists to retreat. After the spirit alchemist was settled, the other pill masters and pill grandmasters would be dealt with slowly. He would let them refine low-level pills and receive his guidance. With tens of thousands of pill refiners refining pills for him, he could support the army. Similarly, this way, he could control alchemists and increase his influence in alchemy. We will take our leave. All the alchemists bowed and left, quickly leaving the palace. After leaving the palace, there were maids and people to greet them. Alchemists were respected, so he would naturally give them status. As long as they didn't betray him, they would do anything. This was because every alchemist had their own pride. There was no need for him to care about them at all. As long as they refined medicinal pills, it would be fine. Moreover, if he gave them the willingness and materials, they would definitely try their best to refine medicinal pills and improve their alchemy skills when they encountered such an opportunity. All the alchemists were given the badge of the Xiaoyao dynasty's Divine Elixir Dispensary. This badge could only be created by the Xiaoyao dynasty. Moreover, the badge of the alchemist was also included in Li Lingtian's 5 Elements Dao intent. This kind of 5 Elements Dao intent was extremely beneficial to spirit alchemists. This was also one of the key reasons why alchemists valued this badge. It could help alchemists stabilize their aura and increase the stability of their pills. More importantly, the badge contained a trace of Li Lingtian's alchemy enlightenment. Anyone who possessed the badge would be able to sense some of Li Lingtian's alchemy skills. However, all of this depended on the alchemist's talent, relying on talent to comprehend. After dealing with the spirit alchemists, Li Lingtian dealt with the array masters again. Using the same words and method, he recruited all the advanced array masters to serve the carefree dynasty. However, those who stayed behind were all array grandmasters, spiritual array masters, and even 2 sacred array masters. Initially, the 2 holy array masters were not convinced by Li Lingtian. However, they were stunned by Li Lingtian's casual display of array Dao. Li Lingtian's array Dao cultivation had far surpassed that of a holy array master. In addition to the divine array diagram, it was not something a holy array master could compare to. Li Lingtian, a genius in the path of refining, used the same method.
Although Li Lingtian did not refine weapons, he had a good understanding of array Dao and the path of refining. Moreover, a true Grandmaster artifact craftsman must know array formation. That was because adding array formation to a weapon was the most powerful. In just 3 days, the Array Grandmaster, Spirit Alchemist, and Artifact Refining Grandmaster, 3 heaven-defying professional geniuses, had gathered in Qingxian. Almost half of the Alchemy Masters and Alchemy Grandmasters were left behind because they had to go through a year's assessment. They could only advance 1 level of alchemy technique in a year before they could truly join the carefree dynasty. After settling everything down, Li Lingtian gathered some of the Array Dao and Alchemy Dao powerhouses to refine the pills and explain the Array Dao. Countless powerhouses were impressed by Li Lingtian's alchemy and Array Dao. Everything was ready. The medicinal pills were continuously refined, so he could use the medicinal herbs to his heart's content. While the Array Dao genius and the equipment refining genius were studying Li Lingtian's War God blueprint, Li Lingtian was also constantly refining pills. Every few days, there would be a shocking amount of spiritual energy soaring into the sky from the palace of Qingxian. Countless experts would be excited because this was the spiritual alchemist of the Divine Pill Pavilion refining Tier 6 pills. Boom! A shocking spiritual energy soared into the sky. This was not the first time, but it would definitely not be the last time. This was because during this period of time, there was a shocking amount of spiritual energy, all of which was the spirit infusion of the spirit alchemists. However, this surge of spiritual energy was stronger than before. The spiritual energy pillar was 100 meters wide, and this spiritual energy was in the 9 heavens. The sky exploded with a halo of spiritual energy. In the depths of the sky, a halo of spiritual energy with a radius of 2 miles appeared. Endless spiritual energy condensed towards the halo and then rushed down along with the spiritual energy pillar. What a powerful spiritual energy impact! I wonder who is refining pills. There is actually such a spiritual energy impact. Could it be that some Taoist brother is trying to break through to the next realm? This shouldn't be the spiritual energy impact of a Tier 6 medicinal pill. Countless spirit alchemists and alchemy grandmasters, as well as countless alchemists, as well as experts in Southern Peak City, were looking at the palace with curious eyes. However, after a long time, the halo disappeared, and so did the spiritual energy pillar. Boom! After a full hour, the second spiritual energy pillar appeared again. This spiritual energy pillar was even stronger than the first one. All the martial artists and alchemists could only be shocked once again, but then they did not take it to heart. After 6 consecutive attacks of spiritual energy, the halo of spiritual energy in the sky had already reached a radius of 1,000 miles. In such a situation, all the alchemy grandmasters and alchemy masters could no longer remain silent. All the super experts looked at the sky curiously. When the spiritual energy pillar and halo disappeared, they slowly retracted their gazes. At the same time, they were discussing non-stop. However, they all understood that another cauldron of Grade 6 medicinal pills had appeared. Grade 6 medicinal pills were used by martial emperor powerhouses. It was not easy for even a Grade 6 spirit alchemist to refine them. Boom! A shocking explosion sounded. The spiritual energy pillar was still 100 meters wide, but the halo in the sky spread to a radius of 10,000 miles. Everyone in Southern Peak City could see the colorful halo in the sky. What a powerful halo of spiritual energy! Wait, that's not right. This is the pill you were refining at the beginning. That's a familiar aura. This aura is so familiar. It's a saint alchemist refining a Tier 7 pill. 7 times of spirit infusion. This is a 7th grade pill. Tier 7 medicinal pills can only be refined by Tier 7 alchemy saint masters. Could it be that His Excellency Alchemy Saint Master is refining the medicinal pill? It must be His Excellency Alchemy Saint refining a Tier 7 medicinal pill. All the experts, alchemy grandmasters, and spirit alchemists looked at the spiritual aura and spiritual pillar in the air. At this moment, when they looked at the spiritual pillar and the spiritual aura, they were completely filled with admiration. This was the first time they witnessed Li Lingtian refining a level 7 elixir. For a powerhouse and an alchemist, such an opportunity was something that only came by chance. Moreover, this was a legendary super alchemy saint refining a Tier 7 medicinal pill.
Chapter 640. Shocking Alchemy Technique. 1. Rumble. Walala. Crackle. The sky was originally cloudless, but in an instant, the sky became covered with dark clouds. Thunder rolled and lightning flashed, as if the end of the world had arrived. The purple electric arcs continued to dive down, heading straight for the palace. All the experts were extremely shocked by this situation because this was a kind of heavenly omen. Otherwise, the sky would not have changed so suddenly and become so terrifying. The destructive lightning world and its shocking aura made all the experts and alchemists feel afraid. Pill tribulation. Pill tribulation. This is a pill tribulation. A real pill tribulation. 11. It's the pill tribulation that was triggered when a saint alchemist refined a Tier 7 pill. It can't be that another peerless grade mutated Tier 7 medicinal pill has appeared, right? So it's the pill tribulation that was triggered when you were refining pills. A saint alchemist is indeed a saint alchemist. He's a unique super saint alchemist. Only a super saint alchemist like young Master D can refine peerless pills. So this is the pill tribulation. It's so powerful and magical. Immediately, countless experts and alchemists saw the reason for the change in the sky. After knowing this reason, all the experts and alchemists were incomparably shocked. Similarly, everyone was extremely curious and looked at the scene in the sky with admiration. At that moment, the news of Li Lingtian's Tier 7 pill refinement leading to a pill tribulation spread like wildfire and everyone was aware of it. Knowing that Li Lingtian was the one who triggered the pill tribulation while refining the pills, they were extremely relaxed. They looked at the scene in the sky as if they were admiring the scenery. That terrifying world became magical and exciting. This was because the young emperor of the carefree dynasty, Li Lingtian, was refining a Tier 7 pill and had triggered a pill tribulation. Only Li Lingtian could achieve such an achievement. The entire city cheered for Li Lingtian's pill tribulation. Rumble. Walala. Crackle. Boom. Boom. The thunder in the sky continued to rumble, and the purple electric arcs continued to bombard the imperial palace. At that moment, a dazzling multicolored ball of light appeared in the imperial palace. Li Lingtian's figure shot up and hovered in the air. He waved his hands continuously. In front of him was a huge ball of light, a colorful ball of light. The ball of light was not big, but it was extremely dazzling. The entire southern peak city could see it clearly. In the ball of light, there was a pill cauldron that was spinning non-stop. Traces of colorful light appeared in the cauldron. The colorful light was extremely magical. All the alchemists looked up at the sky with admiration in their eyes. Seconds ticked by but Li Lingtian's hands never stopped moving. On the contrary, they were getting faster and faster. After half an hour, Li Lingtian extended a hand in the air and flicked his finger. A strange incantation gesture was shot toward the crucible. The pill cauldron also stopped in front of the spell seal. Li Lingtian's movements came to a halt at that moment. His eyes sparkled as a smile of confidence and satisfaction appeared on his face. In the sky, the thunder and lightning disappeared. The dark clouds also disappeared, and they returned to the clear space without clouds. Moreover, at this time, the sky became even wider. Grade 7 mutated Great Rejuvenating Pill. The best quality. I'll reward you with it. Li Lingtian waved his hand in an extremely graceful manner. Instantly, dozens of light shadows flew out from the cauldron into the sky. The pills formed a 5-colored radiance that flew towards every corner of southern Peak City. At that moment, Li Lingtian looked down at the imperial palace. The 20 or so alchemists in the palace had also received some Tier 7 pills. In an instant, more than 20 supreme martial emperors, 20 martial saints, and 20 spirit alchemists in southern Peak City received the pills refined by Li Lingtian. The experts and alchemists who had obtained the pill all looked excited. This was a peerless mutated Great Recovery Pill, and it was the only one in the divine martial continent. Only the holy alchemist Li Lingtian could refine it. The power of this pill was beyond the existence of a level 7. Young Master D, Young Master D, Young Master D, Young Master D. Countless warriors were excited and worshipped when they saw Li Lingtian taking out the peerless grade mutated Great Rejuvenating Pill that he had refined in such a carefree manner. It was beyond the scope of any Danone or alchemist. In this world, Li Lingtian was the only person who could give away a peerless grade 7 mutated great cyclic pellet. Only a powerhouse like Li Lingtian and a super divine alchemist like Lingtian would be so generous. All the warriors and powerhouses could not help but cheer as their subjects worshipped Li Lingtian. At this moment, Li Lingtian was a godlike existence in their hearts.
Carefully meditate and comprehend the wonders of the Tao of alchemy.
In this world, everything has its own Tao. It's the same for Pill Tao, Array Tao, and Martial Tao. 10,000 yuan will never leave its origin, and 10,000 yuan will return to one. Li Lingtian vanished into the air after he finished speaking. His voice lingered in the air for a long time. All the warriors and alchemists were enlightened at that moment. Li Lingtian's words had exposed all the truth and profundities. The true geniuses and experts might be able to find the profound meaning in his words. He could find the breakthrough point with just a few words. As for whether he could accept his profound, that would depend on his talent and comprehension. Thank you for your guidance, Pill Saint. All the powerhouses and alchemists bowed respectfully at the spot where Li Lingtian had disappeared. After Li Lingtian returned to the Imperial Palace's Yuran Hall, he sat cross-legged in meditation. Although his expression was calm, he was extremely excited. This was because the power of this Pill Tribulation Lightning Essence was powerful. It was even stronger than he had imagined, directly attracting the Pill Tribulation after refining pills. Such a benefit would have endless benefits for future pill refinement. As long as one refined a grade 6 pill or above, they could directly use this Pill Tribulation Lightning Essence to refine a mutated pill. Although this Pill Tribulation Lightning Essence had a little postnatal feeling, the Pill Tribulation that it attracted was real, as if this Pill Tribulation Lightning Essence was a primer. The purpose of refining the pill this time was firstly to verify the Pill Tribulation Thunder Essence, and secondly, to show the experts and alchemists of Southern Peak City how a Tier 7 mutated peerless pill was easily refined.
As long as he had such a heaven-defying ability, he would be able to conquer all the experts and gather the hearts of all the experts in the world. After resting for an hour, the true essence in his body had completely recovered. Moreover, his cultivation had improved even more. Although his true essence had not increased, he could feel that it had become purer. His cultivation had already reached the peak of the fourth heaven. It was already impossible to increase his true essence. If he wanted to increase his true essence, he had to break through to the fifth heaven. What he wanted to do the most now was to completely break through to the fourth firmament. That way, he would be able to quickly increase his cultivation when he refined medicinal pills. After he finished cultivating, his spirit and Zhan Yuan recovered. He left his room and went to the garden outside Yuran Palace. He watched as all the girls played inside. From time to time, he could hear the laughter of Tang Ziming, Shen Yuan Qingqing, and the others. Qingqing's laughter was his joy. No matter when or what happened, as long as he saw Qingqing and Qingqing's laughter, the frustration in his heart would completely disappear. Shen Yuan Qingqing and the others spotted Li Lingtian when they arrived at the garden. Imperial Uncle, Imperial Uncle. Qingqing's delicate voice rang out as a smaller figure ran toward Li Lingtian. Qingqing was now a Tier 6 warrior, even though the warrior realm was something they could ignore. However, Qingqing was their precious daughter. She was like their biological daughter. Seeing their precious daughter grow up quickly, they were naturally very happy. To be able to advance from an ordinary person to a Tier 6 warrior in such a short period of time was already heaven-defying. Moreover, Qingqing was only 6 years old. It would already be impressive if other 6-year-olds could reach Tier 5 or 6 warrior apprentices when they started cultivating. Moreover, Li Lingtian did not give Qingqing any pills. He had already thought it through. Even though the pills were heaven-defying, it was best not to use them too often. At the very least, Qingqing could not use pills before she became a warrior. She could only use pills to break through when she reached Tier 9 warrior. This was also a better way to stabilize the foundation. A martial artist's foundation was very important. In this world, all martial artists did not have a stable foundation. Basically, they had taken pills. Qingqing did not use pills. She relied solely on her talent and aptitude, as well as heaven-defying cultivation techniques to increase her cultivation. Qingqing, did you miss Imperial Uncle? Li Lingtian reached out and wrapped his arms around the petite figure.
He then kissed her on her pink cheeks with a kind smile on his face.
Of course I miss Imperial Uncle. These few days, although I have my aunt and the others to play with me, I still miss Imperial Uncle.
Imperial Uncle's alchemy is very important, and there are many things to deal with. Qing naturally won't disturb Imperial Uncle, right? Shenyuan Qingqing happily reached out her little hands and wrapped them around Li Lingtian's neck. She also kissed Li Lingtian on the cheek as she spoke in a sweet voice. Li Lingtian smiled in satisfaction as he listened to Shenyuan Qingqing's words. It would be strange if he did not feel happy about such a sensible and adorable little girl. While looking at Shenyuan Qingqing, he walked towards the garden where Tang Qingyue and the others were waiting. Although refining pills is important, it's not as important as my treasure, Li Lingtian said gently as he pinched Shenyuan Qingqing's cheek affectionately. Then, he came to the pavilion in the garden and sat beside Tang Qingyue, but he kept hugging Shenyuan Qingqing. All of a sudden, all the girls came to the pavilion and surrounded Li Lingtian, chattering non-stop. Although they hadn't seen each other for a while, they missed each other very much. Li Lingtian smiled as he looked at the group of pretty girls. He listened to their conversation and answered them occasionally. The entire scene was harmonious and warm, making people envious. P.S. I recommend the new book, Ancient Sage King Myriad. I welcome everyone to read it and add it to your collection. I need everyone's support. Only with everyone's support can the new book go further. Chapter 641. Cultivation, 1. This time, countless experts have seen with their own eyes that young master has refined a peerless grade mutated great recovery pill. They will definitely be even more loyal. Qing Ling stood behind Li Lingtian and massaged his shoulders with both hands. Her soft fingers gently pinched his shoulder armor to relax him. With a look of enjoyment on his face, the corners of his mouth revealed a relaxed expression. Ling Tian's position in the Seven Kingdoms has already been consolidated quite a bit. He's mainly dealing with the other countries and kingdoms. When they see Ling Tian's strength, they want to suppress us even more. After all, no matter how powerful we are, we can't compare to those high-grade countries, let alone the royal kingdoms. When those kingdoms see that we have become a potential threat to them, they will think of ways to nip this potential threat in the bud. Therefore, Ling Tian has to quickly raise his cultivation. Tang Qingyue said seriously. Outside, she was an icy beauty. She didn't say a word and gave people the impression that she was 1,000 miles away. She was unapproachable, but in front of Li Lingtian, she was just a gentle little woman, Li Lingtian's wife. Sister Qingyue is right. You must improve your cultivation, because no matter when, a true expert can decide the outcome of a battle. If our army is strong enough, a super martial saint will be able to wipe out our army and kill our experts. We will be in danger too. You are the soul of the army, and we rely on you. Therefore your cultivation base is the most important. Our goal is to strengthen ourselves and have a powerful faction to stabilize ourselves. Huang Fu Yuyan nodded in agreement. However, she mainly talked about Li Lingtian's cultivation base later on. In this world, Li Lingtian was already a heaven-defying existence. He was only 23 or 24 years old, yet he had already attained the 4th heaven martial emperor realm. His strength was comparable to a martial saint powerhouse. However, a heaven-defying person must have a heaven-defying threat and a heaven-defying journey. Li Lingtian was heaven-defying, but his opponents and challenges were equally heaven-defying. Therefore, Li Lingtian had to maintain the fastest cultivation speed and raise his cultivation base to deal with all kinds of powerful challenges. If he could not raise his cultivation base, what awaited him was destruction. You are all right. During this period of time, I have been refining pills and cultivating. I have also felt a trace of opportunity. My realm has also loosened, but I am missing something. I've also made up my mind. In the future, you guys should watch out for the matters outside. I'll be in seclusion for a period of time. I hope to find an opportunity to break through to the 4th heaven. I've been in the 4th heaven for a long time. It's time for me to break through. Otherwise, I feel like I've regressed. Li Lingtian's lips curled into a faint smile. He had already made up his mind. The 7 nations had already stabilized. As long as the 7 nations did not attack the other nations,
The other nations would not provoke Qing Xian easily. Even if they wanted to attack and wipe out Qing Xian, the first person they would look for would be him. Only by wiping him out would the morale of the Qing Xian army collapse. At that time, there would be no need to attack and they would be able to disintegrate Qjng Xian. Moreover, the main forces of Qing Xian were the Divine Wind Legion, Divine Dragon Legion, and Divine Martial Legion of the Xiaoyao dynasty. These three legions were the foundation of the carefree empire. It would not be so easy to wipe them out. While the Qing Xian kingdom was stable and the armies of the other countries were still hesitating, he could use some time to raise his cultivation. Moreover, he had already thought it through in his heart. He had to create a heaven-defying army and experts that could replace his army. Because he didn't want to do it all the time. If he did it himself, he would not have the time to cultivate. In that case, there would be no meaning in establishing the Xiaoyao dynasty. But it's not that easy to break through. It's better to let nature take its course. Shun Mei chimed in when she heard Li Lingtian and the others' conversation. She had spent a lot of time in dual cultivation with Li Lingtian, so she had a better understanding of his cultivation base. It was not so easy to break through from the fourth heaven to the fifth heaven. Moreover, the fourth heaven to the fifth heaven was an insurmountable natural moat. As long as he crossed it, it would be a smooth road. During this period of time, we can use dual cultivation and enter closed-door cultivation to help Big Brother Ling Tian break through to the fourth heaven. Maybe this will work. Tang Ziming's face blushed slightly after she finished speaking. Although she had been married to Li Lingtian for a long time and had served him with her sister, it was still embarrassing to say it out loud. However, she didn't have any other intentions in her heart. This was because they could obtain heaven-defying benefits when they practiced dual cultivation. Otherwise, their cultivation would have already reached the 9th level of the Martial Emperor realm, only one step away from the Martial Honor realm. Dual cultivation won't do. Dual cultivation can only increase one's cultivation, not break through. Oh right. Husband, why don't you try the 9 heavens of ice/fire? Your ice-fire 9th heaven has been stuck at the 3rd heaven for a long time. You've also found the infinite holy flame and the spiritual ice. If you can break through the 4th heaven of ice-fire 9th heaven, you might be able to take advantage of this opportunity to become a 5th heaven martial emperor. At that time, your level 4 ice-fire level 9, and level 5 martial emperor, your strength was unimaginable. Shun Mei pondered for a moment before she finally spoke. After that, she looked at Li Lingtian with her beautiful eyes, waiting for his reaction. The other girls were also looking at Li Lingtian because it was a good idea to try this method. It was a good method to kill several birds with one stone. However, whether it would succeed or not was not something they could control. The matter of breaking through was not something that any expert could control. Haha, Mayer is right. It's just as I thought. I'm also preparing to try the Ice-Fire 9 heavens during this period of time. It's just that I've been very busy recently and have no time to implement it. Now that the Qing Xian kingdom has settled down, I can give it a try. If I can raise the Ice-Fire 9 heavens, then we can unify all the low-grade kingdoms in the Moonsong kingdom. Just you wait. I'll go into seclusion to cultivate now. When I come out of seclusion, it'll be time for the army to go out. Li Lingtian burst into laughter. His wives were all extremely intelligent. If he thought of something, someone else would be able to think of it. In other words, someone would help him think of something that he could not think of. This way, he would not be fighting alone but with a few intelligent wives fighting together. With that, he kissed Qing Qing's cheek and handed her to Huangfu Yuyan. Then, he left the garden and walked into the depths of Yuran Palace. The places where he cultivated were all reinforced with restrictions and arrays. Very few people could disturb him because at his level, he was most worried about being interrupted when he cultivated. Li Lingtian returned to the practice room and began to meditate. He was still cultivating the heaven and earth reincarnation art. He did not care about the other cultivation techniques because he needed to cultivate his own cultivation techniques to improve his cultivation base if he wanted to achieve a breakthrough. This time, half a month had passed, and there was no movement at all. Finally, on this day, Li Lingtian's expression was as calm as an ancient well. Shh! He let out a sigh, and his eyes flashed with a bright light. During this half a month, he tried to break through,
but there was no way.
However, he could already sense that what he thought earlier might be right. He should break through to the 9th firmament of ice/fire and take advantage of the breakthrough of the 9th firmament of ice/fire to let the 4th firmament martial monarch realm break through as well. With a calm mind, he activated his divine consciousness and opened the divine dragon ring. 2 boxes appeared inside. 2 boxes appeared in front of Li Lingtian. He closed the divine dragon ring and each of his hands held a box. Limitless holy flame. Spirit cold ice. As he muttered to himself, his eyes flashed with a sharp light, and a hint of determination appeared on the corner of his mouth.
He circulated all his vital essence and used the true dragon body barrier and the limitless feather coat. At the same time, he used all kinds of defensive methods because the limitless holy flame and the spirit cold ice were powerful enough to destroy a martial saint. He was only a martial monarch realm expert. If he was not careful, he would disappear into thin air the moment 2 ultimate destruction items appeared, let alone refining them. Flaming sacred body. Ice soul martial soul. After doing all that, he shouted softly and unleashed his ice soul martial spirit and flaming sacred body. Instantly, 2 extreme worlds formed in the entire training room. This world was a world of ice and fire, a world that destroyed everything. In this world, even if a martial emperor powerhouse entered, he would instantly vanish into thin air. Li Lingtian's body floated up. His eyes were calm but 2 worlds appeared before his eyes. One was the ice world and the other was the flame world. His gaze was like he wanted to destroy everything. Quick! Waving his hands, he circulated a series of hand seals and cultivation techniques. In the end, he pointed a hand seal at the 2 boxes floating in the air. Immediately, the box exploded, and a destructive power of burning the sky erupted. At the same time, a cold air that could freeze the world appeared. When the 2 extreme attributes met, the air in the training room instantly shattered, as if the world was about to be destroyed. The expression on Li Lingtian's face changed drastically as a trickle of blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth. He had long known how terrifying the infinite holy flame and the spiritual ice were and had already made many preparations. However, he had never expected the 2 items to be so abnormal. It was completely beyond his imagination. He had been injured when the spiritual cold ice and limitless holy flame appeared. He had never encountered such a terrifying thing before. He had the ice spirit martial soul and the flaming sacred body, but he was injured by an ownerless item. The shock in his heart was extremely strong, but the more it was like this, the more excited he was. The stronger the spiritual ice and limitless holy flame were, the stronger his achievements would be. When the time came, the power would be even stronger. Chapter 642. The 4th level, swoosh, swoosh. Rip, rip. In the training room, a mysterious and terrifying sound rang out, as if space was being torn apart. The spiritual ice and the infinite holy flame occupied half of the space, and both wanted to occupy the entire space. For a moment, the 2 extreme existences fought. Li Lingtian became the center of destruction as blood trickled down the corner of his mouth. His face was ghastly pale. The raging flames carried a kind of extreme, almost indistinct, enough to burn everything in the world. An invisible cold air was emitted from the spirit ice. The invisible cold air seemed to be able to freeze the world. He spat out another mouthful of blood, and his eyes revealed a trace of weakness. Iced fire 9 heavens. Refine it for me. Li Lingtian's heart sank. He knew that this could not go on. If he waited, he would definitely be destroyed by these 2 terrifying auras. His divine sense moved, and the ice/fire/9 heavens started to circulate. Suddenly, the practice room began to fluctuate strangely. A mysterious ice and fire appeared around Li Lingtian. The ice and fire blended together, unlike the battle between the spirit-chilling ice and the limitless holy flame. With the appearance of the ice-fire combination, the pressure on Li Lingtian was reduced. The frosty chi emitted by the spirit-chilling ice and the sky-burning power emitted by the limitless holy flame were all combined by the ice-fire combination. Although the speed was slow, it was not enough to threaten Li Lingtian's life. Li Lingtian felt a little more at ease when he saw this. At least he would not be incinerated by the limitless holy flame or frozen by the spirit frost. Chi. Chi.
With a series of subtle sounds, the ice and fire fused the spirit-chilling ice and the infinite holy flame. Li Lingtian closed his eyes slightly and smiled. Seconds passed by. In the practice room, Li Lingtian was as still as a statue. The two ultimate auras in the air did not weaken. On the contrary, they became even more terrifying. However, these two terrifying auras no longer posed any threat to Li Lingtian. Spirit cold ice. Li Lingtian's eyes snapped open with a sharp glint as he spoke indifferently with a smirk. He grabbed at the air with one hand, and the spirit freezing ice appeared in front of him, spinning continuously in front of him. The destructive cold air instantly froze the space. Limitless holy flame. He had already refined the spirit freezing ice, so it didn't affect him at all. Moreover, the spirit freezing ice was still for his use, so he naturally didn't have to worry. However, just as the spirit freezing ice was about to seal the space, Li Lingtian extended his left hand and grabbed at the infinite holy flame in front of him. The terrifying infinite holy flame arrived before him, and its power to burn the sky shook the space that was about to seal it. One was dark blue while the other was dark purple. The two light orbs were spinning continuously. Although there was some repulsion between them, Li Lingtian had become their bridge so they did not attack each other. It was like two enemies seeking refuge with the same master. Although there was hatred, it was not good to fight for the sake of the master. Iced fire, 9 heavens, 4th heaven, breakthrough. The smile remained on his face as he used his divine sense to grab the two balls of light and slowly merged them together. Li Lingtian could clearly sense the two light orbs repelling each other as if they were about to destroy each other. He did not want to see such a situation and outcome. Ice, fire, 9 heavens circulated. Ice and fire combined and circulated. The heaven and earth reincarnation art was activated at this moment. This was because the heaven and earth reincarnation art was an existence that fused all things in the world and any attribute. Even ice and fire could be fused. Chi 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 chi. The sizzling sounds became more intense and obvious. Li Lingtian's expression was extremely grave. The infinite holy flame was the most mysterious flame in the world, while the spirit frost ice was the strange ice in the world. Either of the two items was a rare treasure of heaven and earth, an existence that could only be encountered by luck. The two attributes were originally against each other, but now that they had met, it was naturally very difficult to fuse them. They had innate consciousness and were natural enemies. One could imagine the difficulty of changing them. Second by second, the two balls of light gradually approached each other in Li Lingtian's hands. They were less than a meter apart, but this distance felt like billions of miles. As time passed, the two balls of light were already very close to each other. Li Lingtian's expression was one of extreme pain. It was heaven-defying to combine the two extremes. However, at this moment, giving up was no longer possible. Not only would he fail if he gave up, but he might also be destroyed. In front of them were tigers and wolves, and behind them was a cliff. He could only advance, or else he would be invincible. Boom! Ah! With a deafening explosion, the two light orbs had already gathered together. Li Lingtian roared. It was as if shouting could reduce the pressure and pain in his body. At the same time, the practice room was destroyed and Li Lingtian's body was suspended in the air. Heaven and earth shook as two extreme auras wreaked havoc in the space. Countless people in the imperial palace saw it and countless experts were attracted by the two destructive auras. Looking at Li Lingtian in the air, he could see that Li Lingtian was floating in the air. Furthermore, he was surrounded by an endless world of flames and ice. Within a radius of 10 miles, there were two extreme worlds with Li Lingtian in the middle. He waved his hands continuously and fused with a purple-blue ball of light in front of him. The limitless holy flame and the spirit frost ice had already fused together, but they were still repelling each other. Li Lingtian could only use his astonishing ice-fire fusion and heaven and earth reincarnation art to fuse them together so that they would not be separated. What a terrifying world of ice! What a terrifying world of flames! Young Master D actually fused two extreme attributes? This is too terrifying. Is it possible? How heaven-defying! Can ice and fire be compatible? Heaven-defying. This is heaven-defying. Regardless of success or failure, young Master D is definitely the most courageous expert in the divine martial continent.
What kind of destructive power will be produced when the terrifying icy world and the terrifying flaming world fuse? Countless super experts looked at the situation in the sky and were incomparably shocked. Their expressions were all stunned. They had never thought that there would be someone in this world who could fuse two attributes. Moreover, these two attributes were publicly recognized as hostile attributes in the world, so it was impossible to fuse them. No one dared to imagine that at this moment, the legendary, powerful, and heaven-defying young Master D was fusing two extreme attributes. Explode 30. Please get 2 monthly votes. Please get recommendation votes and book reviews. Continue to explode tomorrow. Chapter 643. Fifth level Martial Emperor Realm. The pillar of light shook the sky and shot towards the 9 heavens like a beam of time. The world instantly shattered, and the earth trembled. All the experts trembled, and their eyes were filled with fear. Boom! An explosion sounded in the distant void. Suddenly, a huge black hole appeared in the void. The space also shattered inch by inch, as if a mirror had been broken. All the experts spat out a mouthful of blood. Because of the shattering of space, countless experts were not prepared at all. If they were not prepared, they would be heavily injured. Just the vibration of the space was enough to injure everyone. If this pillar of light gathered on their bodies, they did not know if their souls would still exist or if there would be a trace of dust left. The sky was unable to calm down for a long time. The world was destroyed, and the world trembled and was destroyed. Li Lingtian hovered in the air like a god of war. He stared into the void and was shocked. This move was indeed peerless and was many times more terrifying than extinction. Give the order to unify all the lower-class countries. Li Lingtian said indifferently as he made a killing gesture with one hand. His expression was icy cold. He could sense that his realm had loosened up. It was time for him to break through. He had already cultivated the 4th heaven of the 9 heavens of ice and fire. He had already reached the limit of the 4th heaven of the Martial Emperor realm and was about to break through. It was time for him to unify all the inferior countries. After saying that, all the experts and subjects were stunned and immediately woke up. By conquering and unifying all the lower-class nations, Li Lingtian's cultivation base and strength had increased tremendously. Congratulations, young Master D, for cultivating the almighty divine ability. Congratulations, young Master D, for cultivating the almighty divine ability. All the powerhouses cheered as Li Lingtian returned to the surface. Although the practice room had disappeared, no one dared to disturb his cultivation. He sat cross-legged and circulated all his cultivation techniques. The heaven and earth reincarnation art guided the circulation of his true essence. He threw a mutated great recovery pill into his mouth. This was the first time he refined a mutated peerless grade great recovery pill. As soon as the pill entered his mouth, a shocking medicinal strength erupted. There was also a mysterious power that continuously cleansed his body. The true essence in his body soared, and his body underwent a mysterious sublimation. The heaven and earth reincarnation art balanced the 5 elements of Tao intent. The medicinal power of the great cyclic pill turned into true essence and quickly fused with the true essence in his dantian. Violent and powerful true essence rushed straight towards the bottleneck. Li Lingtian closed his eyes slightly to feel the changes in his body and the changes in the world. After reaching the Martial Emperor realm, breaking through was not just about strength. It was a kind of will, a kind of heaven and earth. The Martial Emperor realm had already fused with the heaven and earth. Only by comprehending the heaven and earth could one truly become a Martial Emperor powerhouse and truly break through. With the will of the 5 elements, it was naturally very easy for him to sense the 5 elements of heaven and earth. He was a small world to begin with, so it was naturally not that difficult. Martial Emperor, Level 5. Breakthrough. Li Lingtian opened his eyes with a smile on his face. He had broken through to the 5th heaven Martial Emperor realm and became a 5th heaven Martial Emperor powerhouse. His current cultivation was many times stronger than before. In other words, his current cultivation was completely different from when he was at the 4th heaven. It was like the difference between a supreme realm expert and a Martial Emperor. Feeling the surging true essence in his body, feeling the strength and trajectory of the 5-colored golden core, he was extremely satisfied. After waiting for so long, he had finally broken through to level 5. This was a kind of joy.
Although the breakthrough this time was not as difficult as the other experts, when he broke through, he comprehended the 9 heavens stars more often and reached another realm of understanding.
Now that he was using the 9 heaven stars, its power was shocking. It was easy and fast, and could be used almost instantly.
With the breakthrough in his cultivation, his strength had improved in all aspects.
Not only did the true essence in his body become stronger, but it had also become even more magical. In his dantian, a few magical powers were constantly revolving. He had adapted to the changes in his true essence after breaking through. The divine spark in his upper dantian had also fused even more. His aura had been elevated, and his every move carried the demeanor of a super expert, making countless experts tremble in fear. The confident smile on his face remained as he left the cultivation ground step by step and arrived at the Yuran Palace. Tang Qingyue and the others were already waiting. They sized Li Lingtian up when they saw him come out. Although he had broken through to the 9th heaven of ice/fire, they did not know if Li Lingtian's cultivation base had broken through. Li Lingtian's realm was of utmost importance, so they were all concerned about it. Lingtian, you've broken through? Tang Qingyue sounded uncertain as she probed Li Lingtian softly. As Li Lingtian's aura had been elevated, they did not know if it was due to his ice/fire 9th heaven or his breakthrough. Yes, I've broken through. I've reached the 5th level of the Martial Emperor realm. Li Lingtian graciously replied with a gentle expression. He naturally understood that his wife cared about him. Li Lingtian was touched by their concern. With these wives, what else could he not be satisfied with? What else could he not be happy with? Really? Congratulations, young master. Congratulations, big brother Lingtian. Congratulations, big brother. Congratulations, Lingtian. Uncle, Qingqing congratulates you. Instantly, all the girls were extremely excited. They chirped happily like little birds to congratulate Li Lingtian, as if Li Lingtian's breakthrough was even happier than their own. Xianyuan Qingqing congratulated Li Lingtian as well when she saw the other aunts congratulating her imperial uncle. She was a martial artist now and naturally understood the importance of breaking through. Breakthrough. It was called a breakthrough because it was to break through oneself, surpass oneself, reach another level, and break through the limitations of one's current self. Li Lingtian's current breakthrough had not only surpassed powerhouses, but it had also surpassed his state of mind and everything else. I've cultivated the 5 elements Tao intent to perfection, so it's relatively easy for me to break through. This time, I've improved a lot of the stars in the 9 heavens and gained a lot of insight. It was rare for Li Lingtian to be happy. He would not hide anything in front of his wife and friends. He would never hide his happiness. Therefore, in front of Tang Qingyue and the others, he had always said whatever he wanted. This also made it seem closer and more real, because an expert would make others look up to him. You're now at the 5th heaven of the Martial Emperor realm, the 4th heaven of the ice/fire 9th heaven, and the 9 heavens of stars. Even if you encounter a 5th heaven of the Martial Saint realm, you'll still be able to fight. However, I still need to strengthen the ice/fire 9 heavens. After all, the outcome of a battle between martial saints can be decided in a second. Ice/fire 9 heavens. The opponent won't give you the chance to use such a big move. Huangfu Yuyan reminded Li Lingtian of all the consequences and concerns no matter what. She was Li Lingtian's woman. Among the sisters, she was the most knowledgeable and experienced. She had encountered more problems than the other sisters and was more experienced than Li Lingtian. Therefore, she would remind Li Lingtian from time to time. Although there were times when they were apprehensive, Li Lingtian and the other girls accepted it. They valued and respected Huangfu Yuyan because they were a family and Huangfu Yuyan only spoke out for the good of everyone. And Yuyan is right. Powerful skills are all destructive. After reaching the rank of Martial Supreme, experts usually rely on experience and fast attacks. The reason why I can fight against those at a higher rank is because of my attack speed. I can execute 5 to 6 moves in the time it takes others to execute one move. Those destructive ultimate moves are all used at the most critical moment. They can only be used when they find the best opportunity. Not only does a big move consume spiritual energy, but it also consumes divine sense. There is also a huge risk because when you use a big move,
The opponent has already attacked countless times. Unless you have someone to help you block or have an invincible defense. Li Lingtian nodded in agreement with Huang Fu Yuyan's words. These were the most basic insights. His ability to comprehend skills was heaven-defying. With the eye of the divine soul, he could also quickly cultivate skills when he cultivated them. If one trained their skills to the extreme and reached the state of instant casting, they would have the advantage of jumping when fighting the enemy. Long Da has already sent out the order to go out. I believe the army will be dispatched soon. Should we go out? Shunmei looked at Li Lingtian. After Li Lingtian cultivated the fourth heaven of ice, fire, and 9 heavens, she gave the order. Long Da also passed the order to Shen Yuan Bailing. An army of 7 million could be mobilized with a single order and sweep across the world. In the past, they would not have been worried because the other kingdoms did not care much about them. However, the commotion in Qing Xian and Li Lingtian's heaven-defying performance had caught the attention of the other kingdoms. They would definitely get rid of him. If they sent out their armies to attack the other nations, the middle-tier nations and the upper-tier nations, they would definitely target Li Lingtian's army. Who knows, the armies and experts of the kingdoms might also want to attack the Qing Xian kingdom. In that case, the Qing Xian kingdom and the Xiaoyao empire would be in trouble. No, the lower-grade countries are nothing to the middle-grade and upper-grade countries. Even if they want to deal with me, they won't do it now because they're afraid of losing face. We can take advantage of this period of time to develop. Besides, if they want to attack, they will definitely send super experts and an army. Our people will definitely know about this. As long as they move, we will act. The only way is for them to act in secret. It is impossible for an army to act in secret. They can only send super experts to deal with me. Am I that easy to deal with? Li Lingtian said confidently. His entire body exuded a domineering aura, exuding an aura that looked down on the world. He had a thorough analysis of the situation outside. Everything was under his control. When he schemed against the world, he schemed against the face of the strong. For the sake of face, he would not easily make a move. This was the so-called saying that a giant dragon would not be an enemy of an ant. The powerhouses of the divine martial continent were all like this. However, it was only an accident that they encountered people who did not care about their reputation. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.